This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to another edition of WST, Winnipeg Sports Talk and Winnipeg Storm Talk. Yeah, we're right in the midst of it here with this big blizzard that has been expected for a day or two. No Winnipeg Jets game tonight, but we'll still be having some fun here for the next couple hours. And as I mentioned, we are going to split it between Winnipeg Sports Talk and Winnipeg Storm Talk. Eddie Tait of the WinnipegBlueBombers.com will join us. Janarion Grant's back with the club. Talk a little bit about the Bomber offseason, the events that they had planned this week, what's happened to them, new third jersey unveiling and whatnot, as well as a bit of a look ahead to training camp. We're going to have Murat test jump on the program as well. Murat's got a great piece in The Athletic on something we talked quite a bit about yesterday, the young players getting an opportunity, what they showed yesterday. And, he wrote about the path to playing time for the Jets young players. So we'll get to that, his thoughts on the team, more in the National Hockey League and more. And then at 2:30, I'm very excited about this. You know, I'm an amateur weather geek. This is, it has certainly been promoted as one of the most significant storms we've had in a long, long time around here. And when you're talking storms in Winnipeg, you're talking Rob's OBS. And first of all, you should be following already if you are into getting the most important up-to-date information on the storm. Rob's a former Environment Canada meteorologist, has a ton of information and expertise on that. And he's going to join us at 2:30. We'll get a little bit of an update as to what's happened so far and what we're in for over the course of the next 24 plus hours. All that being said, welcome to everyone that is with us here live on YouTube. And of course, to everyone listening to the podcast a little later on. And I would imagine that there's a good chance that we might have some podcast listeners that normally are working during the day that might be at home today and welcoming in. So if you are a new YouTube viewer, but listen otherwise, or you're just new in, let us know in the chat. Welcome to everyone, though. We're going to have a lot of fun. And I'm sure there'll be lots of hot sports takes and hot weather takes over the course of the next next couple hours. Of course, and as always, Remis just said, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. Join us daily, 1 o'clock p.m. And if you're not able to pop by, it's also a great way to catch up with the show afterwards by checking out the YouTube in addition to the podcast. All right, Remis is going to come in here. We've got a lot to get to right off the top of the program, but this show doesn't happen with the great support of our sponsors, and we want to thank them all: Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Vita Health, Culligan Water, Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, Breezy Bend Country Club, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Knott Auto Corp, Little Brown Jug, Princess Auto, Boston Pizza, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Canadian Club Whiskey, and of course our betting partner over at Coolbet Canada. Is some afternoon baseball tonight, or this afternoon, I should say. Doesn't really feel like baseball weather around here, but certainly does feel like hockey weather, although there's no hockey game tonight downtown. That game, of course, as we told you yesterday during the program, rescheduled to the 1st of May. That will be the final game of the NHL's regular season, and in all likelihood, the final game for both the Seattle Kraken and the Winnipeg Jets for 2021-2022. All right, let's get to it. Welcome to everyone in YouTube. Michael Remis, what's going on? How are you? How are things around WSTHQ on the south side?
Storm? What storm? I've driven in worse stuff than this, Hustler. What's going on? Look, it's April.
You realize it's just starting, like it's not over, right?
I realize this is going to go for 2 days, but it's April. It's a long weekend coming up. People are tired of this. We're done with winter. Let's just take, an extra long weekend. And I'm okay with that. I drove out this morning. Was fine. We'll see what it's like this afternoon. If I can drop my kid off at my parents, let's see if I can go pick him up. If I can't,
Mhm.
I guess it's just a weekend for me.
Jeez, better fire up the PS4. Maybe get a little NBA Jam going on and
Yeah.
make the most of it. Hey, a snow day for so many right now. I do know that, of course, it's been, I don't want to say it's unprecedented, but I'm talking to people in Winnipeg School Division. I mean, the schools have not been closed in a long, long time, probably upwards of 25 years, and certainly a preemptive 2-day shutdown heading into Good Friday. Hey, will be some great family time. Although, let's face it, coming out of the pandemic, I think everyone's had quite a bit of that. Certainly, folks that had to homeschool kids and deal with everything over the last couple of years. But, anyways, make the most of it, people. We certainly will be. We will be having some fun. Hey, listen, I want to get to this right off the bat because we're going to get to a bunch of other topics, have fun on this program, joke around. But the lead story today, both on the sports pages in Winnipeg and in all likelihood at the top of the broadsheet, in addition to the Blizzard, is a horrible, horrible announcement today by Winnipeg police of arrests of I have to say, one of the most famous and well, I shouldn't say esteemed, one of the most successful coaches in Winnipeg high school football history. Kelsey McKay, the head coach of the Vincent Massey Trojans, former head coach of the Churchill Bulldogs, was arrested today. I'm just going to read this directly from what the police released today. In April 22, the WPS's sex crimes unit was contacted by 5 adult survivors of historical sexual assaults. The assaults were reported to have occurred between 2004 and 2011 when they were students and played football for Churchill High School and Vincent Massey Collegiate. The survivors all reported that this time frame they had been sexually assaulted by the same adult male who initially taught physical education and coached football at Churchill and subsequently became the phys ed teacher and football coach at Vincent Massey. The suspect forged relationships with these students where he regularly communicated with them. The majority of the offenses occurred at the suspect's residence. On April 12, 2002, the sex crime unit arrested and charged Kelsey Albert Dana McKay, 51, of Winnipeg, with the following offenses: 5 counts of sexual assault, 4 counts of sexual exploitation, 1 count of sexual interference, and 4 counts of luring. Excuse me. He's been released on Crown consent with conditions as per the criminal code. And then there's a number for other victims to come forward at 204-986-6245, as well as WPS Victim Services at 204-986-6350. Excuse me. And the clinic sexual assault crisis line at 204-786-8631. I had a chance to talk to Hamilton earlier today, and obviously he's been on top of this story when it broke. And, with his work in, the 3 years putting together the report on the Graham James tragedy and all the people that touched us, there's a lot of that to this. What is different is the timing of it. I mean, there's a lot more evidence when you're texting and there's social media and all those things, in the 2000s than there was back in the Graham James day. But I have to say, Remis, and we just needed to start this right off the bat and discuss it quickly, because this is going to be like a nuclear bomb in the football community here in Manitoba. Kelsey McKay had incredible success at the smallest high school, Churchill, and then moved on to start the program at Vincent Massey, which very quickly, under his guidance, became a real powerhouse in Winnipeg high school football. Looking at his CV, and I wasn't entirely sure about this, but I do believe he also spent quite a bit of time as the coach of Team Manitoba, getting the best of the young high school players. So this, unfortunately, has so many similarities to some of the worst sexual assault cases we've heard. What is noteworthy that it's a football story, it's local here in Winnipeg, and of course, it dates back to these offenses at least between 2004 and 2011. But this obviously is just the first, but another black day for minor sports and predators amongst us. And but the name Kelsey McKay, my jaw was on the floor when I got a text this morning that this was going down.
Yeah, and we're in a lot over the past couple of years reading Jeff's stain on our game, and again, sounds like very similar. Someone in a position of power using their, position to, commit sexual assault. Sad, very sad that, this stuff is still happening. You think like who would do something like this, but here we are. I mean, Graham James seemed like so long ago, but here we are, what is 2004 to 2011. And, props to the individuals, who had the courage to come forward and, and admit, what was and said what was going on. So, shocking stuff, as you said, to read this morning, and shocking for it. Anyone who's ever played on a team or played football, played sports, or played at Vincent Massey. Yeah, this was a tough one to read.
Well, it is. And I mean, we always sort of joke about how Winnipeg is 1 degree of separation. But for people, I mean, I would have been in an era where he was, I guess, finishing playing and beginning to be a coach, getting into coaching over at Churchill. I don't exactly remember because Paul Normando is the head coach of the Churchill Bulldogs. He came over to Kelvin and ended the 25-year drought, at the end of the 89-90 season. Brian Doby was the coach at Churchill at that point. And then, a few years later, Brian Doby got the job with the U of M Bisons. I'm not sure whether Kelsey McKay took over immediately after that or if he was on the staff and then became the head coach. But he did take over and was always lauded for the success that he had. And a school like Churchill, if you're not familiar with it, I mean, Kelvin, even when I was coming out of it, had 13, 14, 1,500 students. I think it might be pushing 2K now. There's a couple of other big, like Churchill was like 400. They had a French program. They had an English program. I mean, it really was all hands on deck. The roster was way smaller, and yet they were always competitive, or for the most part, really competitive. And, he got tons of credit for that. And obviously, at the same time, from what he has been charged with was creating inappropriate relationships and then preying on some of the young players of his football team. So it's a horrible way to start off the program. But certainly with this just breaking in the last hour, this is something that is going to have incredible ripple effects throughout this community, never mind, the high school football scene and the program over at Vincent Massey. But thoughts with the victims right now. And again, this does seem and does sound like it is just the tip of the iceberg. The bravery of the 5 young people that have come forward with this deserve to be commended. And I think their strength might help others that potentially would have been preyed on by the accused in this case. So I'm sure we will do a segment on this coming forward. I mean, obviously, we're normally talking Jets and stuff with Jeff, but he's really become an incredible resource and an expert, frankly, on all of this. He was pretty rattled today when I talked to him, just getting all this information. It's like going through everything again with what he'd done over those 3 years. But thoughts right now with everyone that's been affected by this, and there will be so many more victims than or people that are sort of victimized by the situation, in addition to the brave ones that have come forward. So wanted to get that out of the way, well, not out of the way, but address that right off the bat, because that, the importance of that story will dwarf everything else that we're talking about. The storm's going to come and go. People will deal with that. The Jets game, the upcoming Bomber season. This affects lives. And so anyways, I wanted to get that off right away. But, terrible, terrible revelations today. And this is something that we're just scratching the surface, it seems, from what we've got from Winnipeg Police Services coming up later on. We will talk football with Eddie Tait, Remo, and just to some way move on from a very serious topic back to the toy department. Again, we'll spend quite a bit of time talking hockey later on. Well, it was a wild night last night in the National Hockey League. But perfect timing for the Bombers. Announce a couple signings, including Janarion Grant coming back to the club just in time for Eddie to join us on the program.
Yeah, I think that was one of the questions, special teams, who was going to be the kicker and who was going to be the returner. And Janarion Grant, he's injured for a lot of last year, but when he came back, he made plays, and you definitely saw that in the Grey Cup as well. So that is a big signing. They also signed Lucky Jackson, a receiver.
A different Lucky.
A different Lucky Jack receiver. So they put out the release today, American receiver, 4 seasons at Western Kentucky. So, I guess maybe they're trying to find the next Kenny Lawler here as he departed for the big dollars, or, maybe the next Lucky Whitehead, if you want to use the same name. But that could be interesting as well. The Bombers were supposed to have a bunch of events this week too, Huss. They're going to announce a new alternate jersey. But of course,
I'm hoping Ed comes on the program wearing the alternate jersey, and it's a very subtle tease to let everyone know what it is because they couldn't have their gathering at Club Regent this week.
Yeah, so they had to postpone those, just like everything else has been. So I'm curious what it's going to be. The alternate jersey, I do think the Bombers have some of the best in the CFL. I'm curious what the next one will be, but yeah, they had a bunch of events they were planning canceled. So the Bomber, we're it's hard to believe looking outside, but we're a month away from training camp opening, and I'm getting pumped up here. With the Jets season winding down, we will have some Bombers talk, and yes, looking for the three-peat this year.
Yeah, so anyways, Eddie Tait's coming up. I always love catching up with Ed on a number of topics, so we'll do that in just a few minutes when he joins us. And then Murat Atesh, get Murat's thoughts on the last couple of games. And now the Jets in Florida with this game canceled tonight. And Reem, I know we talked about this on the program yesterday. I sent out a few texts to members of the Winnipeg Jets traveling party yesterday once we found out that they picked up and got the heck out of here before this storm came. And the entire line of questioning was just how the negotiations went with the respective significant others when they had to inform their better halves and families that, in fact, they are not leaving on Thursday. They got to leave right now. Don't worry. There's gas in the generator. There's a charger over there. Good luck with everything. We're off to Florida. And I can't confirm there was some short conversation, but what the heck, Jets had to do it. They got there to Florida, no game tonight. They'll enjoy a couple days out of this weather and then get ready for this four-game road trip. But we do know that Mark Scheifele is still getting checked out. Doesn't look like, I guess, according to Paul Friesen, that Mark Scheifele is with the team on the trip. Blake Wheeler is. We still really don't have much on Wheeler's injury other than it had happened, I believe, in the Detroit game, and he's been out ever since. He was, though, with the team when they rode in Montreal and Ottawa last week. He is with the team again, but that doesn't look like Mark Scheifele's there right now. And certainly, I think the weather minimum would rule him out of the weekend, depending on when he could get there. But I think there's a good chance that Mark Scheifele doesn't play this road trip. And if that's the case, you wonder whether we'll see 55 again this season.
Yeah, that's a good question. We're all suspecting separated shoulder, and now I'm not a doctor. I have no idea. It did kind of look like that, just the way he was hit and grabbed it. But yeah, he's not on the trip. And the Jets, they were off yesterday, travel day. They were supposed to play today against Seattle. Another day off. We don't have any updates, although they did tweet these pretty awesome pictures of them getting on the plane. And people were noticing. Just found it interesting. Cole Perfetti there.
Yeah.
With Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what this means. It could mean nothing. It could mean
Take
something.
your little brother to work day.
Yeah, that was the number one joke. It's Pierre-Luc Dubois with his little brother, with his son. take your pick. But we haven't really had any updates. I mean, we don't know, but maybe he was just like, please get me out of here. I can't be in Winnipeg during this weather. I need to go to Florida. And they said, yeah, we got a seat. Hop on. It could be something like that, or maybe he's closer than they're letting on.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't think he is. Just the simple fact, I don't expect that we'll see Cole Perfetti again this season, because I think that if there was any possibility of him playing again this year, they would have loved for him to play in the Calder Cup playoffs, and we know that he wasn't on that Clear Day roster. So that was just the way I took it. But listen, it would be great to see if Perfetti could get back into the lineup, especially right now in Scheifele's absence. I mean, if there was a way that Perfetti could get in and listen, we've talked a lot about this, and this is not a referendum on what the team is going to do or whether they should or should not move on from 55. But when you have a player like Cole Perfetti that projects into that top six role, and you're talking about potentially, moving some key players, his ability to jump in there, is obviously a huge factor as well, and in what you would get back. So the more Cole Perfetti can play, the better, even if it's these games at the end of the season. But to your point, I'm not holding my breath on any Perfetti at any point this season. And to be honest, I have a feeling like we'll probably see Dave Lowry run out a very similar lineup to the team that played as well as they did against the Montreal Canadiens in the win on Monday night before the very quick trip back to Winnipeg and then getting the hell out before the blizzard started.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. Friday against Florida, I think all eyes here are going to be on Morgan Barron looking for a repeat performance. We're following Kyle Connor, his quest for 50 goals. Nikolai Ehlers trying to get the over for the goal total.
We're
He's
so
a couple
close.
Away.
And man, he had some chances. That damn Dikembe Mutombo for the Habs, doing the no to Ehlers and a number of Winnipeg Jets. I don't even know if we talked about how he robbed Adam Lowry on that perfect pass from Zach Sanford. I mean, Mutombo was the exact opposite goaltender that he was when he was literally a human piece of Swiss cheese a few weeks ago on a Tuesday night when the Jets lit up the Habs for 8 goals. I mean, they did do a lot of great things yesterday. Unfortunately, we could have used another goal or two for Nikolai Ehlers because hey, this is going to be tough going into these next 4 games. That being said, I'm so excited about the way Morgan Barron seemed to fit with Stastny and Ehlers. I know they'll be playing a lot. Nikolai Ehlers should have a much better opportunity on the power play with some of the guys that are out right now. So maybe, just maybe, Mitch and the rest of the gang in the chat, along with myself, might be able to catch that over 28.5 goal bet for Nikolai Ehlers, despite missing a quarter of the entire year.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to look at the playoff watch, Hustler, the Jets were at 0.5% chance to make the playoffs, now 0.4 around the league last night. Dallas with a win, a bunch of games there yesterday. We did joke yesterday, before we bring Ed in, about Toronto having trouble with Buffalo, and there once again,
Sabres, they're a wagon.
Watch out for Buffalo, man. Owen Power making his debut. They get the win 5-2. And I was joking, who do you think Toronto would rather play in the playoffs, like Boston or Buffalo?
They're so lucky that Buffalo's not in the mix.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if Buffalo's in the playoffs, it could be a sweep. They'd be madness in Toronto. So, I mean, Jets winding down. They're heading to Florida this weekend. And Tampa actually lost last night. Shutout by Dallas. We'll see how the Jets fare.
Late goal. It was 0-0 with 5 minutes left in the game. All the other lock shot picks had a big green check mark beside them. We just needed Tampa to get the job done, and they weren't able to score a goal. And Tampa, I mean, I think they lost 5 of their last 6 right now. Certainly not peaking at this point, but I'll give John Cooper and his squad the benefit of the doubt. They seem to know what they're doing with those 2 rings on their hands from the last couple seasons. So I do expect them to be ready to go. But what's interesting, Remis, when you talk about that division in particular, we mentioned that the Panthers have had such a great run. I mean, they're 110 points after their win. The Leafs are still at 100, but you've got Tampa and Boston, 95 and 96. Tampa could conceivably drop to 4th and actually cross over and play against the Carolina Hurricanes in the first round. Again, if you're Tampa, I don't think you really care who you play. Once you've done it a couple times, you're going to have to beat all these teams along the way to winning 4 rounds. But there is a lot of intrigue right now when it comes to who's playing who. However, there's pretty much no intrigue whatsoever when it comes to who's going to make the playoffs. And I got to give a shout out. Let me find the tweet here.
Got to find
the shout out. No, it was... I think it was Tony, and I think, maybe he's deleted it. Anyways, he redid what the 3-point standings would be right now in the National Hockey League, and it was super close in the West. I think the Jets were like tied with Dallas. They were 2 points back of Vegas, and you'd have 3-point games. These games would be so meaningful right now, and the full 60 minutes would be so meaningful with teams like the Jets pressing, potentially pulling their goalie in tied games to try to win in regulation and get that 3rd point. But alas, the way things are set up right now for the NHL, we've known who's in the playoffs in the East for at least 3 months, and not a ton. Well, a team like the Winnipeg Jets essentially out of it when, maybe they would have something to play for if there was the ability to make up more ground when you're playing these games. A thought I've complained to Mark Chipman about this, Gary Bettman about this, every insider about this for over 10 years. So I don't know. I've sort of said my piece on it, but man, are they missing the boat when it comes to that.
Down Goes Brown tweeted about this yesterday. He had an article. Is it a loser point or a bonus point, using semantics? Pierre LeBrun, to his credit, has been on this. And
he's an ally.
He's an ally. He said he's been saying it forever. It's the difference between winless streaks and losing streaks. The NHL isn't a win-loss league. It's a points accumulation league. And he says go 2 or 0 or go to 3-2-1 system. I think anyone can agree it is insane that this is a professional sports league where regular season games, some games are worth 3 points in the standings and some games are worth 2 points. That makes 0 sense. And I have been fantasy leagues that have better playoff system and better points distribution, because this is
the Yahoo
ridiculous.
2004 Roto Hockey made more sense than the way the NHL is set up right now. And as I said, we've been saying this for years, and it's magnified when you have a team that is in the spot that the Jets are in and need to make up more ground. But it's also magnified when essentially you play half the season with the playoffs done in an entire conference. And that's been the case this year. And only hope that maybe what's happened this year gives them some pause for thought. Anyways, we'll ask Murat about that a little later on today on the program. Ed Tait's coming up in just a sec. Hey, big shout out and a thank you to our newest sponsor, our friends at Wallace & Wallace, Winnipeg's fencing and overhead door specialist, who've been serving residential and commercial customers for over 75 years here in Winnipeg as the clear-cut leaders in the industry. Hey, if your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter, hell, maybe this week, has done a number on your current one, give them a call. They have them all vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood. Wallace & Wallace has the right fence for you. And if it's time to replace your garage door, they've also got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. 204-452-2700 is the number. Ben, Charles, Mark, and the Wallace experts will make an arrangement to come out and give you a free estimate. And you can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom over on Lawson Road off of Kenaston. Summer will get here at a certain point, folks, and we've got weddings, we've got grads, we've got great events to get to again coming out of the pandemic, and F Apparel is the local leader in custom suits and clothing for men. More than just suits, though, including untucked dress shirts, shoes, ties, accessories, and more. Every guy needs at least one suit that fits and looks great, and F's custom-made suits start at just $400. And they are the top choice in Winnipeg for wedding and grad suits. If you've got a big event coming up and you need to look great, F is there for you. Wedding parties, 15% off when the group buys their suits from you, as well as a great promotion going on right now for high school seniors who are graduating in the fall. Go see them at 190 Smith Street downtown or make an appointment at fapparel.com. And hey, I hope you stocked up on everything. And if you were smart, you stocked up over at Vita Health, who, of course, have Winnipeg's best selection of local, organic, and natural groceries, supplements, and beauty products, all at great prices, with many products exclusive to Vita Health that you won't find anywhere else. They've got a great grab-and-go deli as well with delicious Vita Market salads, soups, and sandwiches. And you can get those at any of the 7 Winnipeg locations. And they're very happy to tell you they've relaunched the website, fully shoppable now. So find out more on everything available at Vita Health. You can schedule a delivery with Instacart if you'd like as well, but it's waiting for you at Vita Health, myvita.ca, or one of their 7 Winnipeg locations, including the newest store in Linden Ridge. All right, let's brighten up the mood and welcome in Eddie Tait from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and bluebombers.com. Eddie, what's going on? How are you doing? How are you handling? I take this as a work from home day for yourself.
Yeah, I'm in the Charleswood Bureau right now, as they say. It's going okay. I mean, this is like everybody else. This is a kick in the nuts in a way, isn't it? It feels this is just, I can't wait to fast forward to May 15th and the opening of main camp, because hopefully by then the snow will be melted.
It's a kick in the nuts followed by a perfectly executed stone cold stunner, I think. I mean, this is sort of a 1-2 punch, and we're all dazed looking up going, what the hell is going on?
Well, I was going to come on wearing this and saying that I just came in from watching my wife shovel the driveway, but that's probably an old joke by now, right?
Man, I was wondering if John Reyes was going to have any heat on Twitter this weekend. It's a huge opportunity for John to continue the hilarity of the original one. And tell you what, there's a lot of people looking for a Cynthia Reyes in their life right about now with all the snow that's coming. But I digress. Just quickly, at the Charleswood Bureau, how's it been so far today? Have you looked out inside, or is it just whatever? Not paying attention.
I'm staring outside right now, and the snow just keeps piling up in front of my window. Yeah, it's just, look, we all want to be outside. I got a new set of irons for my birthday. I've been at the driving range once, but I'm wondering if I'm even going to get to use them on when I see the weather like this. It's depressing. I like to get out and walk. I mean, who wants to walk in this now? It's just, come on. Another bad joke. I feel like we're Chris Rock on stage, and Mother Nature has just walked up and slapped us like Will Smith.
Yeah, we're getting the Will Smith treatment on repeat right now, Eddie. There's no doubt about that. Well, listen, before we talk players, the signings, and upcoming training camp, let's talk about how, every organization right now has been affected. We were talking yesterday on the show about how this was supposed to be such a big week of hockey. The Jets had a game tonight against the Kraken. The Ice started a 2-game series tomorrow night against Regina. The Moose were supposed to play on Good Friday afternoon at 2. All of those games are off right now. And it was a busy weekend for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You guys continue a great off season with so many community events, and a number of things that had been planned by the organization sort of fell by the wayside. Give us an idea of what was supposed to happen and where we go from here.
Well, the commissioner makes his Randy's road trip was supposed to be in town yesterday, so that always feels like spring when he's in town to talk about that kind of stuff. And we were supposed to have our third jersey reveal tomorrow. That's been postponed as well. I've had a sneak peek at it. It's pretty cool. So those things get spiked, and again, we are going to have training camp. The rookie camp's going to start on May 10th. It's just how much snow might still be on the ground. I watched Valor practice for a little bit yesterday at IG Field, and the playing surface was all cleared. There were still some banks on the side, and you're watching it thinking, oh boy, a couple more good days of melting and we'll be clear. But now it's like starting all over again.
Well, you know what, just speaking of Valor for a minute, what must some of these international players be thinking right now? It would be funny. I don't know what languages they're saying to each other, but man, if you had a good multilingual translator to get all of the real truths being put forth by some of these young men, they're probably going, what the hell have I got myself into? Yeah. Is this really happening?
We have a guy from New Zealand, Moses Dyer, was our leading scorer, and I was talking to him recently, and I said, you didn't sign up for this, did you? And he said, I feel like I've been lied to. And we joked that he thought he signed with a team in Winnipeg, and maybe it was FC Antarctica or something. And he cracked that Antarctica's probably warmer right now.
Wouldn't it all be surprised? That being said, as far as the third jersey, we'll wait to see what it looks like. Although I was kind of hoping that you'd just show up wearing it today. That would have been a great reveal, Ed. Yeah. What do we know about it? Is this going to be something they wear a number of times a game? For instance, the Jets, we know they've got the Heritage jersey. We knew they were wearing it for 14 times a year. Is this going to be prominent, or is it going to be a special one-night thing? How does that work?
Yeah, from what I understand, and I could be wrong here, so I should be careful. I believe it's only going to be a special occasion kind of jersey. Look, let's face it, the Royal Blues are so popular with fans for the home. I don't want to.
It ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Right. That's like the Montreal Canadiens changing their jersey. That bugs me when they did that a few years ago and went with the blue. Come on. Or the Yankees messing around, right? The Royal Blues to me are iconic. So from what I understand, this would be a special occasion jersey that I'm not sure how many times it might be worn this year, Huss, but let's put it this way, at least once.
Absolutely. Hey, by the way, Andrew Haleko, shout out to you, my friend. Thanks a lot for supporting the Winnipeg Sports Talk, and welcome to the supporters. We'll get that mic for you, and you can enjoy all the great emotes that Remis has put together for the chat. Thanks very much, Andrew, for the support. So, Ed, all this stuff is off. I imagine that, do you anticipate just rescheduling stuff, or is it going to be done in a different way? I know there's not a lot of time, and there was already Princess Auto Grey Cup Tour continues around. I mean, there still has been a lot of things going on away from the quote-unquote field as the preparations for training camp ramp up.
Yeah, I think everything's just got the word postponement in front of it right now. I don't think anything's been canceled. I think the commissioner will still make a stop in Winnipeg, and obviously we'll do the jersey reveal up right when things are normal again, and we can get out and drive around without crashing into a snowbank. So those timelines haven't been set yet. I think everybody just wants to kind of get through the survival mode of this week, and then we'll get to it. I've been in the office a fair bit recently, and it's starting to heat up. Guys are in there. The coaching staff is in there getting ready for the draft, and there's been a lot of discussions on some of the other things. I know they had a long session the other day talking about looking at different free agent kickers that they might bring in. So things are going to heat up, and again, we'll just have to kind of tread water here for a while, and then things will start to be good. I'm hoping, right, sooner or later we got to at least get some double-digit temperatures to warm everything up here.
Yeah, hopefully by training camp. Let's go with that. The work still does continue for Kyle Walters, who's had a very busy offseason, as has pretty much all of his contemporaries as CFL GMs. But Bomber fans got some great news, and I love the timing. We could talk about it. Just a couple hours ago, announced that Janarion Grant, just an incredibly versatile player, but specifically in the return game, back with the Bombers. How long have they been working on this? And from your perspective, Ed, how big of a return is this for a guy that can make such a difference in that third aspect of the game?
Yeah, he's been a free agent since mid-February, so I guess you could say they've been making calls even before that with him. He's like a lot of guys. When you're a specialist, I think he sniffed around down south to see if he might be able to get, an NFL camp invite, or what might have been available for him down there. The Bombers just kept in contact with him, and when that window closed, they brought him back. He's a dynamic return guy. We saw in his very first game when he lit up Calgary there a couple of seasons ago that he can change a game. He got a bit banged up last year, but still put up good numbers. And, you just don't want to have any, as everybody knows, you don't want to have any question marks back there when you got a guy fielding punts and kickoffs, and you want someone that's dangerous, not just someone that hangs on to it. It's been a busy day. They also signed Lucky Jackson, a receiver that put up really good numbers at Western Kentucky. And it's going to be that, I keep writing about this, but that receiving battle in training camp is going to be kind of juicy because Kenny Lawler moved on, and so did Darvin Adams. So there's a couple of openings there. You add Greg Ellingson, but often it's these new guys that come in that can really pop off the page. And there's some really interesting prospects that this coaching staff and scouting staff have signed.
Yeah, and Lucky, I'm just basically seeing what the release was today. I mean, from Western Kentucky, as you mentioned, and I mean, the list of guys that come as unheralded dudes from smaller schools to the Canadian Football League, and as you mentioned, Pop, is long. And I'll say this: the Bombers have a pretty darn good track record. This management group, at least, of identifying some diamonds in the rough and polishing them when they get north of the border. But I imagine this has been a guy that's been on the radar for a little while, and certainly Kyle pretty excited, as well as the coaching staff on the offensive side of the football, to get another guy named Lucky in the fold.
Yeah, if this guy turns out as good as Lucky Whitehead, they'll be really happy. It's interesting because lots of guys could put together good highlight tapes, and their resumes can really jump out at you, but. They're also going to have Blake Jackson, who was having a really good camp last year before he blew out his Achilles. They announced that Carlton Agadosi, who's 6'6", is coming back. He had a good camp last year and was on.
What happened with him? I was going to ask you about him as well. I'll be honest. I saw that he was re-signed, and I didn't really remember the name very much, with the exception of camp. I mean, what was his year like last year, and how did it come to be that he's getting another crack?
Yeah, he spent all the year on the practice roster, and I know that can be really frustrating. Just to not play, but also financially for a guy, right? But obviously they see something in him. He's a big target at 6'6". At the beginning of camp last year, he was one of the standouts, and then other guys just sort of caught up to him. And then he's a guy that was really hindered by no preseason games, because that's where you can lock down a job. And he just kind of plateaued a little bit. Other guys caught him and passed him, including Kelvin McKnight, who will be back too. So he's another guy. They signed Antonio Nunn, who's had a big year at the University of Buffalo and was in camp with the Falcons last year. Dalton Schoen, who was with Kansas City Chiefs for a bit and the Chargers, and from Kansas State. TJ Simmons, who was first signed out of high school by Alabama, so you got to be pretty good there, and finished up at West Virginia. And there's more to come, right? There's still a lot of bodies that are going to get named or signed before training camp that are going to make that position interesting. Well, all positions, but I just look at that one in particular because of the exits of Lawler and Adams, and there's going to be starting jobs available.
No doubt about it. Well, it's a perfect transition to what I was going to ask you about, because I actually ran into DC and Alcatraz a week ago. I was just catching up on the off season, and it had been a little quieter after all those flurry of signings. And they said, hey, there's still lots of work to be done, and there's still a number of players. And we're kind of thinking back to the crowd, especially at some specific positions like DB last year, of how many players came in. And you sort of realize that obviously there's some spots in the roster that are pretty much etched in stone. But there are some other holes right now that still need to get guys in, and some legitimate competition like we saw at DB last year that turned out so well for the Bombers with Nichols and Alford winning those jobs.
Yeah, I mean, look, we still got a ways to get to rookie camp, but there's going to be 100 guys probably in rookie camp, and they'll slice that down over 2 or 3 days before main camp. But, Andrew Harris, look, we'll just rattle off the names. Andrew Harris is gone, as everybody knows. Kenny Lawler, Darvin Adams, Drew Desjardins signed with the New England Patriots. Stove Richardson's gone to BC. Jonathan Congo to the Denver Broncos. DeAndre Alford signed with the Atlanta Falcons. I think that's 3 defensive starters, maybe 4 on offense. Like, that's a lot of change for a team that's won back-to-back Grey Cups. But, the one positive is that Desjardins is the only Canadian starter. Congo's sort of a half Canadian starter because he rotated with Jake Thomas. So the scouting staff does a really good job of finding American guys, Ted Gavai and Danny McManus, and the scouting staff, and then they do such a wonderful job of finding Canadian talent. I'm not sure if anybody's going to be ready to step in right away, but you certainly sign or draft depth guys and hope that they morph into starters. So there is going to be quite a bit of change to a team that has won back-to-back.
Ed Tait of BlueBombers.com with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Ed, fill us in on the draft. Did Bombers have all their picks for the most part?
They have all but their 3rd-round pick, which they traded to BC for Sergio Castillo. There's another guy. So they've lost him to Edmonton in free agency. So they picked 9. I wrote this down: 9, 18, 38, 47, 56, 65, and 74. So they have 7 of 8 picks in the 8-round draft. So last in each round, because you're the Grey Cup champs. That's how it works. But you're still going to get a top 10 player, right? So it should be interesting.
Well, for sure. And what I kind of intrigues me is the fact that, a lot of times with championship teams that have won back-to-back titles, I mean, it's not really as much about the draft. It's about the right now. You're looking at winning, you've got a group going forward. But in the Canadian Football League, especially the way the Bombers have built this organization, the draft and hitting on these picks have been so integral to getting guys that have come in and performed as Canadians in some really, really key positions. And the fact that the Bombers are back-to-back champs, I don't think probably changes anything about the approach of the Winnipeg Football Club going into a selection day.
No, you're right. And so here's an example. Desjardins, who they drafted, has signed with New England, as I said, and the leading contender to fill in at the left guard spot is Jeff Gray, who was a 1st-round draft pick a few years ago. Jonathan Congo, who rotated with Jake Thomas, both draft picks. So they'll probably draft a D lineman somewhere along the way. I think their depth is a little bit impacted along the offensive line because Liam Dobson, who was their first pick last year, a big, ginormous guard who played at Maine and then Texas State, has opted to go to the USFL, which that's a bit of a curveball. I don't think anybody thought he was going to go there, but he thought maybe that was a road to the NFL faster. I'm not sure if that's great advice, to be honest, but he would have been another guy that would have been right in the mix. And who knows what happens with that league. I still think it's pretty goofy that they're playing all their games in one site, and who knows where that's going. So there's a guy that's sort of in limbo. But you're right, Huss. The draft it's massive. It's not just for finding. Remember when Kyle Walters and Mike O'Shea first took over, when they had high draft picks, they needed those guys to start right away. So Suk Chung, Matthias Gosen, those guys needed to play right away because they had holes. And now they have holes, but they're more depth holes, or they've got people ready. And so we'll see what they do, but they're always so well prepared. You expect them to hit on 3 or 4 of these picks at least would make your roster.
No doubt about it. You mentioned kicking and potentially getting some free agent kickers in. I mean, with Medlock long gone now and Castillo bringing the luchador mask to Northern Alberta, I guess Mark Leggio would still, and Ali Murtada would still be in the mix. And I'm sure with the strong camp, the Bombers would love to have one of those guys that they already have be that guy. But considering what happened last year, I don't think they'll take anything for granted. Is that safe to say? And there will be some competition coming up for camp?
Oh, absolutely. I believe Coach O'Shea was at a kicking camp in the States within the last month or so. So a bunch of free agent kickers to show up, and NFL teams and CFL teams are there to see who stands out. So maybe there's somebody from there. There's guys that come out of college all the time. There's global punters and kickers too that I know that they're looking at. So you're right. When they traded for Sergio, and we saw in the Grey Cup, when he came out there was a comfort level that was the same as Justin Medlock, right? There wasn't the concerns. And before that, I think as the season was rolling along and before that trade, and we saw the struggles of Tyler Crapina, who's gone now, and then Mark Leggio and Ali Murtada. I mean, a lot of us were watching every field goal kicker with our hands over our face, right? Just looking between our fingers and hoping it went through. So Leggio's got a strong leg, and Ali Murtada is very consistent. He just consistently not
2 feet right.
Yellow sticks, right?
That was bizarre because he was nailing it every time. It was like almost a line, lining up or some sort of perception of the goalpost. And I mean, listen, they gave him some opportunities, and it was cool that they kept him around. And I'm sure both of those guys probably benefited from being around Sergio for those weeks that he was with the club and seeing what he did. But as we said, it was a luxury for the Bombers. I mean, they were destroying teams for the first 3 months of the season, and it didn't matter if your kicker went 1 for 4. The difference was covering the spread by 10 as opposed to doing it by 16 or 17. But we knew, Ed, come playoff time, when things really counted, those points off the boot of the field goal kicker were going to be massive. Castillo came through, and I'd imagine they would like to not have to worry about getting a Sergio Castillo around week 13 or 14 of the season this season.
Yeah, so you're right. You could have made the case that Sergio Castillo could have been the MVP of the Grey Cup, right? He had 5 field goals in those conditions. So what I expect is that, including Leggio and Murtada, they'll have at least 2 or 3 other kickers in rookie camp, I would imagine, or at least they'll take a look at some of these guys down on the States before they bring them in. But the fact of the matter is, unless you're signing a veteran guy with a proven track record, this is going to be a question mark right into the first few weeks of the season, right? Because guys can go crazy every day at the stadium or even in a preseason game. But when it really starts to matter, that's when, or you need a guy to kick one with no time on the clock, or the punt one, even the punting, right? To put one inside the 10-yard line when you need the field position. Those are the things that aren't really truly evaluated until the games matter. And so, it's going to be really, really a juicy storyline carrying over from last year for this club and into camp and into the start of the season.
Ed Tait's with us from BlueBombers.com. Eddie, before we go, and it's great to have you back on the show. Can't wait to do this more and more frequently as we get closer to the season. Balharry FC has kicked off, and there's so much excited about Canada's men's national team making it to the World Cup. Been a weird couple of seasons for the CPL. We're hopefully going to get back to some semblance of normalcy. And I think it caught some people off guard that the lads opened the season last weekend. Now, shout out to the CPL for knowing better than to schedule any games this early here in Winnipeg. I believe the home opener is the 1st of May. But just quickly on the opening game of the season, great start, held the lead late, and sort of feels like they let a couple slip away with that late equalizer by FC Edmonton.
Yeah, it was, look, they were really devastated after the game on, I guess I should say match, that's the proper way, after the match on Sunday. And I talked to them yesterday, a few of the players, and they're trying to flush it, but that was a real, talk about a kick in the private parts. That was certainly that for Valor. They needed about 10 more seconds of wasting time. And you know how that's such an important thing in soccer. Just someone needed to kick one more out of bounds it was just literally the last play of the game and a bicycle kick for the tying goal. And you go from a road win, which would have been massive, to a road tie, which is still important. But now this Sunday, they're into Victoria to play Pacific FC, the defending champs. Then they go to Ottawa the week after before the home opener. This is a pretty good team. They're a little bit short-staffed right now because a couple of their international players still haven't got visas. And one of their promising midfielders, Matthew Catavolo, is with the Canadian men's under-20 team right now. But it's really good soccer. And it wasn't the best start, but they still got a point in Edmonton. So we'll see what they look like, how they bounce back this Sunday in Victoria against Pacific FC.
We had a chance to meet and get to know the new head coach, Phil Dos Santos, a few weeks ago. Have you enjoyed dealing with the new sideline boss of the club?
Philip's all business, right? I like him. He's look, everybody liked Rob Gale. He was kind of like the Pied Piper of soccer in this town for a while.
Oh, such a great guy.
Yeah. So it was unfortunate what happened to him last year, but Philip's a good fit for this team right now, right? They need someone to push all the right buttons to get this team into the playoffs. And they fell 1 point shy last year. And they've got a lot of the returning guys. He's used his connections to bring in some new faces too. I think they're pretty solid across the board. And we'll see. I think Sunday's a real important bounce back game for them. And if they could get some more points against Ottawa before coming home, there might be a little bit of a buzz about this team before their opener.
Yeah, well, it's time to get in the trench on the 1st of May and get out and see this team. If you're interested in, definitely check out Valor FC online for information on ticket packages, and same thing for the Bombers. And just quickly back to the Bombers on the way out. Speaking of tickets, we knew there's a lot of competition for that sports entertainment dollar right now, and everyone's in a different situation coming out of the pandemic. But I'll tell you what, I mean, as someone that, wants all of our teams to succeed, and the Bombers certainly deserving of the support from these last two Grey Cup wins, pretty awesome to hear the season ticket support for the club coming off that second championship. I believe DC told me there was like 80 Pinnacle Club tickets left in the entire inventory right now. And so obviously people are stepping up and very excited to get back out to IG Field to see the champs try and run it back again. Yeah,
Huss, that's a good point. Those Pinnacle tickets are a good sign or good indicator, because those are the heavier price points, right? Those are the high rollers, so to speak, and they're on board. And I know our corporate sponsors have been back on board. And from what I was told fairly recently, I think our season ticket renewals in the 90 percentile somewhere. So that's only going to grow in the next few weeks, providing we get rid of some of the snow. There's a buzz about this team still. It's a good football team, even with all the changes we were talking about. A lot of the familiar faces back, and a lot of the stars are back. So it's always fun. And let's hope that when those summer games are rocking at IG Field, those snowbanks in the corner of the field are long gone by then.
Well, I won't bet on anything at this point when it comes to that. Yeah. However, I will know it doesn't even matter if there's 2 feet of snow in June. That place is going to be full for the Bombers when they come back and try and get back on the field. Eddie, great to catch up again. Enjoy a couple days, lock down again. And man, great work with Valor FC and Winnipeg Football Club. Can't wait to do this more again very soon with you as we get closer to Bomber training camp.
Right on. Thanks for having me on, buddy. Take care.
You're the best. There he is, Ed Tait. Check out all of his work over at bluebombers.com, as well as match reports and more on Valor FC as well. on the website. All right, Murat's coming up in just a second. Hey, I hope you got everything you needed to be shut down for a couple days. And of course, maybe number one on the list is water and water services. And luckily for folks that have been taken care of by our friends at Culligan, they are fine for the next little while. A few big jugs with their citywide delivery. Culligan, of course, have been the experts in all things water for your home or your business for over 65 years as a locally family-owned business in Winnipeg. You can see them at 1200 Sargent Avenue. Pop in and check out everything they've got, including water softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, whole home systems, drinking water systems, and those citywide water delivery services that I mentioned. Also, commercial and industrial water products and solutions for businesses of any size. You can give them a call at 204-694-5180 to talk to them about what your water needs are, or find out more online at drinkculligan.com. Manitoba Battery. Donnie and the guys, they've got their big farm sale on right now. And who knows, maybe there's some folks that normally would be working on the farm that are with us right now because of what's going on outside. Here's what you need to know. The annual battery farm sale is on right now until April 22. With Group 31, 1100 cranking amp batteries on for $87.50, Ford and Chevy half-ton batteries for only $79.50, and 900 amp top post utility battery for $72.50, just to name a few things you can take advantage of. And for you folks in the rural areas, phone orders are encouraged, so we'll have it ready for you to come pick up at 1026 Logan Avenue. And for everybody else that's in the city that's looking forward to working on the boat or getting out on the water this year, extended summer hours beginning next week, post-blizzard, on April 18th. They'll be open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So if you can't make it down during the day, you can now go after work. I know Paul Edmonds will be popping in, getting ready for fishing season as well. And of course, they'll deliver to you same day if you order before 3 p.m. And you'll save significantly more money than you would if you went to Costco or Canadian Tire. Manitoba Battery, 1026 Logan Avenue. Same time and money with their guys. You can find out more online at manitobabattery.com. And hey, a big cheers to our friends over at Royal Sports. I was talking to Greg yesterday. There's so much excitement about Blue Jays season, a ton of Blue Jays gear in right now. You might take a day to pop down and grab it. And of course, baseball season, softball, soccer, Royal Sports is the headquarters. So if you're getting ready for the season, pop down to Royal. They'll take care of everything. Check out that new fitness department. Of course, the massive hockey gear and all the new bikes coming in daily at the back. Royal Sports is at 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. All right. Winnipeg Sports Talk will continue. Winnipeg Storm Talk at 2:30. Rob's Obs, one of my favorite weather follows, is going to give us a little update on what the hell is going on in and around southern Manitoba and what we should expect for the next 24 hours plus. But right now, let's welcome in our guy Murat of The Athletic, talk a little Jets and more on his latest piece at The Athletic. Murat, how are you? How are you hanging in? Did you get all your supplies you needed to be shut down for a couple days?
You know, I had a couple rounds of grocery trips. And the truth is, the second time I went back just to see how crazy it was, maybe it's the journalist in me or like the anthropologist in me. I needed to get, like, I thought everything is settled. I'm going to get some snacks that I like. So I was going to go get some La Cucina chips. That was my thing. That's going to be my comfort food throughout being buried in my house. And I went and I just kind of like took my camera out and like did the scan of the grocery store aisles. It's worse out there in the grocery stores than it was when the pandemic was a new thing. And I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay.
What was the toilet paper situation like? Was there any people fighting in the toilet paper aisle over the last rack?
I saw no gloves dropped. I walked down it just to see there. I don't think anything too bad was going on. Some shelves were empty, some shelves were full. I had enough, right? This is going to be a couple of days tops. So I think we're going to be all right.
La Cucina, absolutely veteran move. I can tell you that I owned it yesterday. I don't think I had been to the grocery store since like the start of NFL season. I'm more of a Sev guy, skip the dishes, quick stop in at Shoppers Drug Mart for Diet Pepsi. But I did purchase a bag of La Cucina, which are the most elite of the elite nacho chips as well. Anything else special for these few days that are going to keep you going through, in addition to that great sale on 3 for $9.99 you took advantage of?
I hear they're going to think we work. Actually, you know what? If you're out there and you work at La Cucina, can you just send us some? Because my goodness, yeah, that's my comfort food. That's it. That's all. Like I don't know. Last night I made a beef bolognese. I haven't made one of those.
Nicely done.
Yeah, what up? Murat can cook. And so I think that's just going to be it. I don't think I have anything to. I wish I had a better take for you. La Cucina chips. That's me being a rebel.
Yeah, I had and I think I said this to Dusty yesterday when I was on, but the Donair pizza I think I got it one time. I'm not sure what I was doing at that time, but I was just, maybe I'll try one of this. And I thought it would suck. It was unbelievable. And now when I do make the odd run down that Safeway frozen food aisle, Donair pizza, sweet sauce instead of pizza sauce, it literally is like a Donair on a thin crust pizza. So there's my suggestion if you get back. Let's talk some hockey right now. Well, first off, what did you think about the games in Ottawa and Montreal? And right off the bat, how surprised were you when you heard that Connor Hellebuyck was starting in the second game of those back-to-backs?
Well, I mean, we are used to so much Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, Eric Comrie's had a strong season, and I've come on here before and say, okay, Eric Comrie should start here or there, the other place. But I guess that Dave Lowry is sort of just at that point of, until things are officially done, Connor Hellebuyck's going to get just about every game. Worked out well enough. I mean, there were some pretty strong performances overall from the team. Solid amount of desperation to get 4 points out of those 2 games. This stretch ahead is probably the most difficult business, but the stretch behind still teaches us some things. Morgan Barron, probably an astute acquisition. That was a nice little pickup and a little bump up. I thought Zach Zanford played some of his best hockey as a Jet. I honestly think despite all of his physical gifts, the play dies on his stick more than you'd like, So I liked the idea that it was actually Morgan Barron that got the push and then got the results. And then Huss, just like as a general lesson to take away, to see Dylan Sandberg have that success and Morgan Barron, et cetera, to watch Cole Perfetti have had that success with Connor and Dubois, to have seen Svetch do it. To every time you have these 2 established stars and the third guy shows up or somebody ends up in a good situation, they perform well. And I think one of my biggest lessons from these last few games is that context and quality of line mates matter so much. I don't think we know what a lot of these guys are unless they're playing substantial minutes in appropriate situations.
No, it's a great point. Just back to Hellebuyck for a minute. I'm sort of with you. And if you want to go with that, I mean, I guess I'm fine. As Remis mentioned yesterday on the program, and I said, if that was the case, where was Hellebuyck against the Leafs after the game that he played against the Buffalo Sabres? It was just sort of a head scratcher. You just sort of assumed, okay, they've got these games identified for Eric Comrie, and they've stuck to that plan. I would have been shocked if the plan originally was to go Hellebuyck back-to-back against Ottawa and Montreal, but they rolled him out. And listen, to his credit, he was awesome in those games. I mean, especially in the Ottawa game where they really needed him. And as far as Eric Comrie goes, I certainly I'm not hanging that loss in Toronto on him by any means of it. I think any of them, maybe they just knew that was going to be a real tough night for the goaltender and didn't want to put him through to it. But it does seem like, right now, I guess it's Hellebuyck until they're mathematically out, or maybe he's just like, hey, I'm the guy. Let me keep going. I'm playing well.
Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of that. And actually, to your point, I like maybe, and this is just thinking out loud, who knows, but maybe starting Comrie against Toronto and not getting the win, not blaming him for it, but maybe that was a case of the coach putting his hand on the burner, burning it a little bit and being like, okay, not again, right? Like learning that lesson, whether it's the right lesson to take away from it or not, because Comrie's played so well this season. Maybe it was an, okay, well, we're going to split these. This didn't go well. Not again kind of situation. I wonder if that has a little bit to do with it. Certainly, if you thought that Eric Comrie were injured or any other sorts of things like that, you'd have other goaltenders traveling with the team. So it really has to be some sort of strategic decision that was made in the coaching eyes.
That being said, let's get back to kind of where you took this, and that is the young players. And I mean, the piece is up right now at The Athletic. The title is What We've Learned About the Path to Playing Time for Jets Young Players. It's not a surprise that we're talking about this right now, because I really do believe that is one of the few things that can really be gained by these final stretch of games for the Winnipeg Jets. A look into the future, opportunity for some young players. And I will tell you what, I mean, you mentioned the two names coming out of the last game, Morgan Barron and Dylan Sandberg, both really stepping up and showing that, not only do they belong in the league, I think are capable of maybe more than people thought. Why don't we start with Barron? I mean, a lot of credit goes to Stastny and Ehlers. But I'll tell you what, they looked excited to play with him. He made the most of his opportunity, and having a body that big, that physical, good on the boards, winning puck battles, and being able to get his line mates the puck, I thought made that a very, very dangerous line. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly that. That's Morgan Barron coming as advertised. He is the prototypical third line player on a good team when everything hits, right? Enough hands to do some damage in certain situations, but somebody who, if all goes well I guess he's 23 years old, his development, he's going to be that ideal person who can play against just about anybody and have an impact because he wins those battles, because he has that size. He's an intelligent player. At the AHL level, he's a dominant type player. And the particular skill set that he has, as far as it should translate to the NHL, everything goes well. That's that. But then he makes those plays where that shot that he picks that corner on, clearly a rocket, then gives himself some confidence. He's making a step around a defenseman, doing a little bit of ankle breaking on his way to setting up Paul Stastny for his goal. And it's a clear sign to me that, there's a little bit more there. Are we going to get that 2-point performance out of Morgan Barron every time he plays in the top six? I think that's tough to bet on, but it's nice to know that ability is there. It's nice to think that Winnipeg might get a chance to look at it again a little bit and again a little bit, because the thing that Morgan Barron was missing in New York was opportunity. That was it. That was all. Every time he came up, Gerard Gallant didn't play him substantial minutes and, buried him on the fourth line. And we've seen guys like Jansen Harkins play on the fourth line all year. Maybe he's a third line player. We're not sure. Give him second line minutes. He scores a couple of goals. And opportunity is so much in terms of sort of deciding what these guys can be. I like him early. I actually, of the acquisitions, Mason Appleton, I think I've liked the most, but Barron is a close number two. And then I would slot Sanford in behind that.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Appleton. I mean, the first reaction was, wait, Appleton's coming back for only a 4th round pick. He's an RFA, $900,000. I think there's a real future for him playing alongside Adam Lowry, as he was basically stapled to him for the entire season last year. But there was one play that stood out in the game, and we'll get to Sandberg in a minute, in that first period, of Appleton with a ferocious back check behind the play, laying all out, essentially diving with an extended stick to break up a pretty good scoring chance by the Montreal Canadiens. And to me, that one play exemplified exactly what I think the organization and the coaching staff is looking for the players that are going out in these games that are wearing Winnipeg Jet jerseys. There's only so much to be gained in the standings. We joke that they need to win, 15 of their last 11 games. Obviously, that is not happening. But for players like Appleton, and I would say everybody on the squad, considering how disappointing this season is, I think the onus is on these players to step up with real professional efforts, showing some pride in the jersey and in their teammates. And we certainly got that. Maybe after a rough first period against Ottawa, they turned it around. But I thought that full 60 minutes against the Montreal Canadiens was exactly what the organization hopes they can get for the rest of the season. And to be honest, probably scratching their head why they couldn't see more of that in the previous 73 games to get them in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing with a real sense of pride. And there's a sense that where was this level of effort and intensity, especially even the way that they came back against Colorado? I mean, what a period that was. What desperation from some of those star players. And you wonder, well, if that had been there all year, would we be talking about winning 15 of 11 or 8 or whatever it's going to be down the stretch? Absolutely not. So that's going to be something that is a big picture item. And then the little, like the narrow focus that you're talking about as well, I completely agree with. When a team struggles to meet expectations, which the Winnipeg Jets have, that is a fact. When that happens, the temptation is to throw out players that do have quality, that could contribute in better contexts. That's one situation that Winnipeg, or a pitfall that Winnipeg would need to avoid. The other is they need to sort out exactly where some of the struggles have come from. I would argue that those types of effort plays, like Mason Appleton demonstrated that he can make and is very good at making regularly, I think that's a really strong example of what Winnipeg can do, what individuals on the Winnipeg Jets can do now that show that they will be part of the solution going forward. And I think that Mason Appleton is unique. I mean, how many times this season have you seen that play where a Winnipeg Jets forward who was forechecking hard and was caught in the offensive zone makes it back and turns a puck over from the other team before the red line? You don't see that very often on these Winnipeg Jets. They might knock down pucks earlier on in the forecheck, but the structure and that back pressure hasn't been there. Mason Appleton's heart on that play. You love that. You love to see that.
Yeah, and I think he's making a he, like many people, you hope will make a move that says, hey, especially guys that have come here recently, and who knows what the situation with Sanford is in. Yeah, I have probably seen enough that would say, oh, this is a guy you have to have back next year. But knowing what we've seen from Appleton in the past and the way he's playing right now and doing it with Adam Lowry, who continues to lead by example each and every night, I think certainly positive. And listen, just quickly back to the Colorado game before we get to Dylan Sandberg. There's been so much talk about, leadership on this team, the core, all of that. You mentioned that play that Josh Morrissey made, with an empty net on Friday night against Colorado, making the save, being key and turning the puck around and getting that tying goal. I think he's spoken after every game, or at least like 4 of the last 5 games, wins and losses. It's always Morrissey going out. For all the talk about the leadership group and people having issues with the captain or with Mark Scheifele, I think Josh Morrissey is basically bearing the load of the entire group right now. And both with his play on the ice and how he's handling this very difficult point in the season, couldn't be more impressed with what Josh is doing night in and night out.
This is a phenomenal season from Josh Morrissey, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, at no point this season have you looked at Josh Morrissey and thought that he's come off his game. Even as far out of the playoff race as you think that the Jets have become, he's there in the third period, leading the rush, trying to create from the blue line, jumping into the play. And there's a quickness to his game. There's an assertiveness that's been there all season. He revamped his training regimen, focusing on explosiveness last summer. There's a lot of reasons why he had that success. But the mental side of the game, where he has answered the bell every single time, where he continues to push against the long odds, I mean, that is leadership. That is absolutely leadership. And when we talk a little bit further down the lineup of guys like, well, Mason Appleton's an established NHLer, but he's not on that Josh Morrissey level, you're looking for signs that these guys will be part of the solution. I think you see that from Josh Morrissey every single shift, every single game. I do want to clarify, not clarify to you, but to folks who sometimes wonder, why doesn't Wheeler speak? Why doesn't Scheifele speak? Sometimes it's simply that they're not asked for. That's on us. Sometimes it's Josh Morrissey had the best game and we look for the guys that have had good games. Sometimes it's a moment where, yes, you want leadership and letters to speak. And Josh Morrissey is, I can't think of ever him saying no to that situation as well. So it's a mix of both. It's not always that we're asking for Blake every night and he's saying no to us necessarily or anything like that.
Listen, the media is sick of asking for Blake. I just have to say it. I mean, Hammer came on with both barrels loaded up, but he kind of hit it. Blake has had moments, and again, I've been very complimentary, and I've had his back, to be honest, like from the start of the season, saying this is a guy that can still play. This is a guy that, when healthy is going on, can help this team win. And I've been very complimentary of the way he's played, particularly since the All-Star game, and especially since moving off of Scheifele's line. Wheeler's been getting it done, but the relationship between Wheeler and the media, and even when things are going well, sometimes is so like walking on eggshells that I think that many of them just avoid those conversations. And, Mark hasn't had much to say for a long time around here. And, and part of that, falls on Josh Morrissey's. But yeah, you're exactly right. They're not getting a bunch of no's from those guys. It's just gotten to the point where you're exactly right. I think when the guys, but they're on the road and you're only getting 1 or 2 players, they're looking for guys that are going to give them something. They're going to help them with what they're writing about. And more often than not, it's not those guys. That's where I'm at. So yeah, no, for sure.
Actually, I agree with that. And the thing that I really like is it's not just getting the opportunity to speak. It's what you do with it too. And Josh Morrissey has taken the opportunity and he's eloquently expressed whatever has needed to be expressed. Kyle Connor has been phenomenal with the media this year. I think he's really stepped forward in his maturity. Pierre-Luc Dubois' honesty has always been there. Paul Stastny, every time he gets behind that microphone and speaks, he's calmly, I was going to say spitting truths. I don't talk, but like calmly delivering things like that, even during tough situations. And yeah, so if there's frustration with the content that comes out of these guys' voices or mouths sometimes, I would understand not necessarily wanting to go back to that well again as well.
Listen, these are the leaders on this team now. And I'm not saying that those other guys can't be, but Josh Morrissey, top of the list right now. Adam Lowry, absolutely. Kyle Connor, Nikolai Ehlers, Paul Stastny. I mean, these are the guys, frankly, that have been the ones that have said what has had to have been said at times when they've had the opportunity to do it. And man, going back to Josh, I mean, the moment it's been interesting seeing him speak so frequently after these games. And I'm sure that he has been continually asked and he continues to do it because he's had such thoughtful answers to the questions that fans really want to know. But man, I mean, I think back to that game last Wednesday, a week ago, just after the last time we spoke, and that absolute dud on home ice that really seemed like, I mean, if there wasn't an era finality yet around the hockey club, that was the night. And to hear Josh come up and being asked by Ken Weeb what was said after the game, he said absolutely nothing. I mean, he's also speaking with a frank honesty that I think people really appreciate that we don't get often enough.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. And there's this real sense of there's been so many small examples of Josh Morrissey showing a real understanding of his role and demonstrating respect, I would say. I remember during the Zoom era, there was a point where he was responding to every question by using the reporter's name and pronouncing it correctly, where sometimes it's a challenge kind of deal as well. And there are times when he's followed up with reporters after scrums to give more context on things. The difficulty of this season and the way that he stepped up and sort of spoken, I have nothing but admiration, I would say, for the way that he handles himself in those contexts, because it's easy to go out there and fire off a bunch of jokes when you've just scored a hat trick and everything's going well and you've rattled off 5 wins in a row. But to come out there during a difficult context, be a human being, don't manage not to take the questions personally, open them up, be 3-dimensional about that. That's difficult. And I don't begrudge anybody who struggles with that, but to excel at it is a uniquely emotionally intelligent thing. And I think you see that from him. You see that from Paul Stastny, Nikolai Ehlers, Kyle Connor, the list of names that you gave. You really do see that. And a lot of those guys are 24, 25, 26 years old, which is interesting to me because that's not supposed to be old enough to be the absolute core of the leadership group. But I think it is. I think these are the guys who Winnipeg's success is going to be built around. Well,
and I think that the organization's moved that way as well. And I mean, I kind of brought this up. We've mentioned it for the last couple of days. Some people don't think much of it. I do, because I know what goes into the decisions of who the organization puts forth, especially in maybe the most crucial offseason that they've had at any point since returning here. But I mean, I don't know if you were flicking around on Instagram or on Twitter on the weekend, but there were all these ads for the new season ticket membership. And it was nice to see the players, kind of take a role and, hey, fans, be around. Who was it? It was Pierre-Luc Dubois. It was Nikolai Ehlers. It was Josh Morrissey, and it was Kyle Connor. And I don't know if you could show an example of anything that has been an important part of Jets promotional material or a message from the organization that has not had Mark Scheifele or Blake Wheeler in it for a very, very long time. And listen, we're seeing that sort of turnover right now and that change. How quickly it happens and what this team looks like, next year and the year after that, we will see. But make no mistake about it, that is not just a random thing that happened. Anyways, we could talk about this all day. Let's talk about Dylan Samberg, because that's another big piece, part of your piece. And my God, we spent so much time talking about Logan Stanley, Ville Heinola. Samberg was sort of forgotten at the beginning of the season due to the injury, but my God, every time he's stepped into the lineup, Murat, he has looked like he is more than capable of playing regular, consistent minutes and providing, first and foremost, this steady defensive game that I think a Winnipeg Jets head coach is looking for in their player. How have you seen it?
Exactly the same way. I have been so impressed with Dylan Samberg, and You had Scott Wheeler on last week talking about Winnipeg Jets prospects. I thought he did a phenomenal job. Like that, I shared that. I just encourage everybody to listen to that and listen to it again. You know, that there's so much good stuff there. And we've been talking about prospects for a while. I write an annual top prospects piece at the Athletic, and Dylan Samberg has routinely been above Logan Stanley on our lists because not out of a shot at Logan Stanley, but because there's not only that sense that at his best, he can be a defensively strong player, probably a defensively stronger player, I would say, to be honest. But there's also this quiet dynamism about him. If you look at his game in transition, it's not just the fact that he can shut down a player, kill a play on the defensive side. It's the fact that he can get the puck going, and if he needs to hold on to it, to wait a beat, to make something open up, he has the confidence to do that. If it's just getting that stretch pass out, or if it's jumping in from the blue line, he has a little bit of everything. I don't see a top pairing in Dylan Samberg's future or a power play or anything like that. But as a guy who can really genuinely affect the game at 5-on-5, I think that we're starting to see signs that that could be his trajectory in the NHL. And I just feel so bad for the guy going back to training camp. He already knew, probably looking at the depth chart, he could have the camp of his life and not crack the top 6, right? Veterans had been brought in, and even Logan Stanley was above him. Nathan Beaulieu was still around, all that sort of stuff. And then he has that, I believe, ankle injury. And that's just so tough. But to go from that to having the season that he's had, and the next time we see him, he has the impact that he has, that speaks a lot to his ability and also to the work that he put in and the focus that he's put in terms of getting himself ready to seize the next opportunity when it does come.
Yeah, and he's certainly doing that. I mean, that was, coming out of it, the effort, performance, the 60-minute, game that the Jets played, and the, I don't want to say breakout nights, but the starring roles of both Samberg and Morgan Barron, I think made that a very, very good night for the Winnipeg Jets in a time that is not, that people haven't been enjoying. But I mean, you have to look for some positives. You have to get something out of these games. And I think both those players definitely provided it. How do you see things going with Samberg by the end of the year? I mean, listen, I don't think there's much of an argument that he doesn't belong in the lineup right now. Do they just ride him out for the rest of the stretch? Do they get Logan Stanley in there? Do you think at some point they might rest a veteran or two to get these guys in? And at what point do you want to have Samberg back with the Moose to get ready to, compete for a Calder Cup in a very important role in the AHL squad?
I mean, those are the big questions, and we haven't even named Ville Heinola, who I gather will probably stay with the Moose and get ready for that Calder Cup run. To time it right, I really think the most important date on Dylan Samberg's calendar would still be the start of Calder Cup playoffs or Manitoba's preparations for that. But other than that, the leash should be completely long. I just think about his impact on Brendan Dillon of late. If you look at Brendan Dillon's season-long stats playing with Neil Pionk, and then look at the stability that these two have been able to find together, playing against Colorado even, which is one of the most difficult matchups that you can get, and to see them have success. I mean, this is, to use your word, like he belongs. And I think that going forward, figuring out who is capable of what is the most important thing. So even for me personally, if that means Logan Stanley doesn't play a whole lot down the stretch, that's okay. Even better would be if veterans get nights off from time to time, especially if they're banged up. And we note that, Samberg is up on an emergency recall. Ville Heinola was an emergency recall before that, which indicates probably that somebody is on that threshold of banged up to the point where it would be reasonable to come out for a game or two. If that guy exists, I mean, the moment that you're willing to convince yourself the playoffs are not a reality, those guys should sit and the youth should play.
Well, and we'll see at what point they sort of go down that route. Bottom line is, though, I fully expect to see Dylan Samberg. Would have been nice to see him in a home game, but we'll have to wait for May 1st for that game. And of course, this road trip to finish up. Murat is with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Check out his latest piece in The Athletic talking about what we've learned about the path to playing time for Jets young players. Just quickly, I've got a couple other things I want to hit you with, but in synopsis, I mean, people can read the entire thing. But there are questions, and I mean, this is not anything new. I mean, Ville Heinola has probably been the number one guy that's taken up the most oxygen when we've talking about young players. Are they ready? Where they should play? sometimes you see a guy like Dylan Sandberg that has really matured, both being a little bit older, playing longer in college, now being really ready, as opposed to Villy, who at times has looked like he absolutely belongs, and at other times seemed like, oh, geez, maybe he's not quite ready yet. I mean, can we deduce anything from the last couple months with the struggles of Stanley, Christian Vesselainen's season so far this year, Ville Heinola, and now what we've seen from Dylan Sandberg once he's had a chance to play regular minutes?
Yeah, I think I would probably take those guys one at a time. Christian Vesselainen, for me, to be honest, it never made sense that he got that third line spot handed to him right out of camp. I think that was a mistake based on size and previous projections. None of my offseason pieces would have put him in that role. We've talked about David Gustafsson. There was a possibility of, had Riley Nash worked out as a better veteran player, there were other potential players that had probably done more in the sort of role you would imagine for that spot. And so they committed a lot of time to finding out probably that Christian Vesselainen is not going to be an impact player in that regard. And maybe useful bottom six player is a nice new ceiling for him as opposed to that incredible scorer that we've seen him be. Unless there's a matter of teaching or coaching or time that you can bring that out of him in the future. But I think that they put a lot of time into learning the lesson that he could not impact in that role. I don't think they put very much time at all into learning the Ville Heinola lesson or the Dylan Sandberg lesson so far. And with Ville Heinola, I agree with you. There have been moments right from his first shift of this season where he's looked not ready for the moment, unprepared for the moment.
Is that the Panthers game?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And just the nerves of it. And you can believe the criticism, and you can see that a player who is so good with the puck, so intelligent, so good in transition at the AHL level, everything runs through the guy. Well, if he doesn't have any confidence with that at the NHL level, that's an issue. So I can believe the criticisms. Then you see the stretches of play where he's not only doing that, but he's tough to play against in his own end. And you see big players easily get spun off of by opposing forwards. And Ville Heinola is tight to them. His gap is good. He's chippier than you'd expect for a guy at his size. And he has that transition game and confidence. So I guess my takeaway, Huss, is that there have to be conscientious times where the NHL is in fact thought of as slightly a developmental league for the right teams in the right situations. You go back, I've harped on this a lot, but I'll say it again. The last couple of seasons before this one are a little bit different and a little bit more curious to me than this season in terms of how these young D have been handled. But when you have pending unrestricted free agents who are not part of the long-term solution, Lucas Spiza, Anthony Bitetto, Nathan Beaulieu, Tucker Pullman, Carl Dahlstrom was part of a trade. All of these depth defenders who, in a perfect scenario, hit their potential, are still not impact players on the Winnipeg Jets and are free agents, and they're getting minutes that Ville Heinola and previous versions of young defensemen don't get during seasons that are tough for the team. That's a mistake. That is cost and lost development. This season, the defense core has been better, and I get the idea of that Manitoba team is really competitive. There's lots of opportunity to grow and mature there, play all of those sorts of minutes as well. I don't consider, even though they're all 1 year older, I don't consider this year quite as disastrous as the last two had been.
Oh, great stuff. Folks, check out the piece in The Athletic and make sure you're subscribed for all of Murat's great content over there. Before we go, I saved this for the end. It was not lost upon many people that the Jets played the way they did on Monday against Montreal, and there was no Mark Scheifele in the lineup and no Blake Wheeler. They're 5-0 now in this circumstance. Very small sample size. Is that a statistical anomaly, or is there a non-analytic part to guys stepping up in the place of guys that have had those spots and roles that we've seen so far at this time? I mean, is there anything to it, or is that just a weird number that comes out sometimes when top guys are out?
Well, I kind of want to talk at it from both angles, because you see this sort of stuff like home road splits, goal differential by period, a team's record when they play on Tuesday. What about Sunday afternoon? And you see all of these sorts of things get put forward on broadcasts. And really what that is it's trivia. It's not statistics. It's interesting information. It's not something that gives you insight. I mean, is a team more likely to have success on a second period power play on a Sunday afternoon because they've done it in the past? that stuff's random. Like there's so much of that goes on in the NHL, and any 5-game sample, even in this situation where, whoa, it's Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler. And yes, we know that they're very serious guys, and we wonder about their impact on the tension in the locker room and all those sorts of things. 5 games is still a nothing sample, no matter how definitive 5-0 looks. So from an analytical perspective, I look at that and I'm like, okay, let's pump the brakes on it. But at the same time, let me put that side of myself away. And there is a sense when you watch the Winnipeg Jets that there are some players who perform far better in positions of, I want to say, comfort. I look at that Evgeny Svechnikov goal where he pulls the puck out of his feet, that wrist shot that's just so artfully delivered. And all year we've talked about, well, should Svech be the guy on that line with Connor and Dubois? And I say, well, he's the passenger on that line. He's the third wheel. And there are sometimes you can watch him defer to those guys, and he looks pretty bad when he does defer. And then when he's assertive, it looks like he's a very good player. Well, that goal was pure assertive nature from Svechnikov. That's a confident play. It's a confident move. Winnipeg gets a goal out of that. That contributes to the win. And so then the human being in me is looking for other scenarios where young guys may feel the same way. Like, is there a sense of freedom that, even if it's not because Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler are monsters, but just that bump up in the lineup to a level where they can get the minutes and the quality line mates that are going to lead to that kind of success as well. So I'm not taking it as a sign that there's something horribly, evilly gone wrong with Scheifele and Wheeler, but I am taking it as a sign that there are players on the Winnipeg Jets who could do more than Winnipeg gets out of them. And this constant top 6, bottom 6 mentality we've seen on the Jets for the last several seasons, where guys like Scheifele and Wheeler lead minutes in just about all scenarios, depending on what's going on. Wheeler more than Ehlers, more than all the rest. That's where I think Winnipeg's lesson should be. I think the lesson is, wait a second, it's not just those guys who can contribute. And maybe there are contexts in which their minutes should come back and other guys' minutes can go up. And there can be more integration of the so-called skilled guys in bottom 6 because there are other people who can contribute. That's where I'm sitting on this.
Yeah, no, listen, there's lots of interesting topics right now. We'll have plenty of time to kick them around. And I think huge questions going into the offseason. And certainly those two players are a big part of those conversations. Murat, thanks so much for doing this. Hunker down. You got anything else coming up, or just sort of we're going to wait till the team gets this thing going on Friday?
Huss, I keep waiting for the time that I can tell you the thing. I've been working on a story for a month and a half. And
that'll be good then. That'll be good.
There's a lot of emotions that go into it. Like, I've gotten emotional over it. The Jets player who it is about has shared a lot of really valuable stuff. There's some, I've never said this before, moments in it. And I submitted my first draft a couple days ago, thought that maybe I'd be talking about it coming up, but it's just going to get some massaging and some tweaks. I'm going a little bit batty because I want it out there in the world, but I still have some work to do. So maybe by next Wednesday we can be talking about something.
Well, I'll tell you what, and everyone in the chat will be looking forward to it. Be well, stay safe, hunker down, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend. Thanks for doing this.
Right on. Thanks, Hustler.
Great stuff. There is Murat Atesh of The Athletic. Hey, we're going to do some Winnipeg Sports Storm talk coming up in just a second. Yeah, no golf this week for all of us, but when the season does get going, cannot wait to get out of Breezy Bend. If you are thinking about a new golfing home for you and your family, no better place than Breezy Bend, just west of the city, out in Headingley. breezybend.ca is the website for all information on all of their programs, as well as an amazing place to host a wedding, breezybend.ca. Our friends at Not Auto Corp, probably not too pleased with what's happening today. Shout out to everyone that made it into work. But we will get into summer, and a lot of people thinking about maybe going electric. And of course, they've got the Tesla experience right now to teach you and help you learn everything about a switch from a traditional to an electric car. Find out more about that at Not. And whether you're looking for a traditional or an electric vehicle, why not get into the car of your dreams over with our friends at Not Auto Corp at an incredible price. Waverly and McGilvery, and online at not.ca. Cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug. I have a feeling there'll be many 1919s consumed within the comforts of one's own home. If you were smart enough to hit the beer store yesterday, you're good to go. You can find out whether they'll be delivering on Friday or Saturday at Little Brown Jug. But wherever you get beers, make sure to get Winnipeg's finest Little Brown Jug, featuring the famous 1919. William Avenue is the tap room, and you can find them online at littlebrownjug.ca. All right, looking forward to this next segment. Remo, if you want to give Rob's Obs a call, we are switching from Winnipeg Sports Talk to Winnipeg Storm Talk for a little bit. We figured that with everyone dealing with this, we'd go to one of the best around, and that is Rob Paola, retired Environment Canada meteorologist. He runs the account Rob's Obs, and he's done some great work predicting this storm, and we figured we'd get him on just for a couple minutes to find out what's happened so far, where has been impacted the most, and what we're into, what we're up against in the next 24 to 36 hours. While we get Rob on the horn, for everyone that's with us live in chat, would love to hear where you are, especially for people outside of the city. Looking at you, Kabilis, give us a bit of an idea about what things are looking like in the chat right now.
So,
Rob.
hello. Yes.
Hey, it's Andrew Paterson from Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thanks so much for doing this.
Hi. You're welcome, Andrew.
Oh, this is great. So, folks, we're live on Winnipeg Storm Talk now. We've changed the name for a few minutes to Winnipeg Sports Talk. We've got Rob Paola, who runs Rob's Obs, a longtime weather expert. And Rob, I mean, for about a week, you'd been talking that this is going to be maybe not just a big one, but the big one for a while. Take us back to last week, if you could, and fill us in on what were these models showing you and why this massive storm was coming to where we're at right now in southern Manitoba at this point in the year.
Well, last week, long-range weather models were hinting of the development of a significant Colorado low, which we all know and love in southern Manitoba. We know what they can bring. But they were quite consistent in developing this strong system out of Colorado and moving it into the Dakotas and Minnesota. And it looked like there was going to be a prolonged event. And at this time of year, when you get a Colorado low with a lot of moisture that can feed into it and still cold air on the backside, that can translate into a lot of heavy snow, which we're experiencing right now. So it was kind of, a combination of knowing that these long-range models were quite robust on indicating the potential development of the storm, and knowing from previous years that when you get Colorado lows at this time of year in spring, March and April, they can bring some significant snowfalls and intense weather for southern Manitoba.
It was interesting seeing yourself and Scott Kaler and a number of the experts on social media that do such a great job of following these things over the course of the few days leading up. I mean, often, we'll find out what we thought 5 days ago was significantly different 3 days in. And but it did seem like most of these models were in agreement for the better part of the last week. And it's all seemingly coming to fruition as we sit here right now.
That's right. And that gives you more confidence when there are a number of different models. I don't know if people know this, but it's not just one weather model that we look at. England, the European Union has a weather model. The United States has their weather model. Canada has theirs. And we have access to all those models that we can look at. And when all the models are kind of agreeing on the same story several days in advance, that gives you a little more confidence that, something big is brewing. The trouble is, it comes to the details, depending on exactly where that track will be. That can be off by 100 or 200 miles. That can mean a major difference between you getting heavy snow or rain. But it does highlight the potential of a big storm coming to impact your area. And then as you get closer to the event, you can kind of zero in on what the impacts will be at a more local level.
Now, Rob, as we got closer to last night when everyone was expecting that we would be inundated with this beast, It did seem like the snow started a bit later. What can you tell us about what happened last night with the slow nature of this storm creeping in? And then what's happened so far today up until this point in southern Manitoba, but specifically the greater Winnipeg area?
Yeah, last night we were tracking the snowfall. It was basically coming up through North Dakota. And yesterday afternoon, Grand Forks got absolutely nailed with a foot of snow in about 6 hours yesterday afternoon. And that snow was edging up towards the Canadian border last evening. But as it was creeping up towards Winnipeg, there was some drier air coming in from the north that kind of kept postponing or delaying the onset of the snow in Winnipeg. So it took several hours last night before the snow finally made it in here. But once it did, it started snowing more heavily early this morning, and it was very heavy through the morning. We've had about 15 centimeters of snow now up through noon, and that's indicative of the heavy snowfall rates that we've seen in this first phase of the storm.
Now, folks, if you haven't already, make sure you give Rob a follow, a great weather resource. It's at Rob's Obs, ROBSOBS on Twitter. And Rob, we've heard about this dry slot that potentially was going to come over the city. And I know you tweeted just less than 10 minutes ago that it looks like the dry slot is starting to pivot right over Winnipeg. We do have some lighter snow, but there might be a break in it. Fill us in on what is the dry slot, how it'll affect Winnipeg, and then what happens next.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of times with these storms, when they get wrapped up, tightly wound up, you get this area of stronger winds that punches up the cloud and clears it out ahead of it. And that drier area, which we call a dry slot, can sometimes punch quite a ways well north into the storm. And we were seeing that coming up over the southern Red River Valley and up towards Winnipeg this afternoon. It did push over the city. Our snowfall lightened up compared to the rates that we were having this morning. But now we're seeing it kind of starting to pivot around and come that area of snow coming back to the south as the low starts to drift to the east. So we're kind of getting back in the wraparound of this system. So the snow should continue, and that dry slot should be edging out this afternoon through the rest of the day.
I'll ask you about the rest of southern Manitoba in a second, but just keeping it here on Winnipeg, when this dry slot moves back down, it sort of seems like this storm that just passed us is going to essentially be pivoting and coming back towards us. Is that right? And what should we expect in the Winnipeg area over the course of the rest of this afternoon, tonight, and overnight into tomorrow?
Yeah, this is a long duration event. So we had this kind of first punch this morning. With the first initial wave. That's moving out this afternoon. But then a secondary part of the storm is going to be tracking up into northwestern Ontario and intensifying over there. And we're going to be on the backside of that. And that's going to bring another round of snow over southern Manitoba and Winnipeg tonight and through all day Thursday. So that's why this thing is a kind of a long duration event that we have to put up with until things finally start improving on Friday. It looks like we could see another 10 to 15 centimeters on top of what we've had already. So stormfall totals by Friday morning, probably looking around 30 to 35 in the Winnipeg area. Some areas west of Winnipeg in the higher terrain areas of Manitoba Escarpment and Riding Mountains could be seeing 50 or 60 centimeters out of this. So it's a significant mid-April snowstorm and certainly not the type of whiteout that Winnipeggers were looking forward to in April.
Yeah, that is to say the least. We were hoping we'd be talking about a different Winnipeg whiteout here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, but it's just great to have you. Now, we saw, the images yesterday afternoon in Bismarck. I heard Hal Anderson talk to a guy in Minot today. They said that they've had nearly 2 feet of snow already and looking at potentially another 1.5 feet. I know we're sort of focused here on Winnipeg as the majority of our listeners and viewers are in the Winnipeg area, but we do have people all around the province in southern Manitoba, as well as people elsewhere thinking about friends and family in other areas. What can you tell us about what has happened so far in southern Manitoba and which areas have been hit the hardest?
Well, so far as of noon, it looks like Morden area has picked up the most that I've seen. They're up to 30 centimeters as of noon. And that's kind of in that western Red River Valley where they're getting the enhanced snowfall with what we call upslope, where the winds come up the Manitoba Escarpment and enhances the precipitation through that area. So they've been hit hard down through the Morden, Winkler, Treehorn areas. Brandon this morning down to 1/8 of a mile with blizzard conditions all throughout southwest Manitoba. So kind of western Red River Valley and southwest Manitoba looking at the really stronger impacts from this storm. We had a bit of a break here in the Red River Valley and southeast Manitoba, but again, additionally, more snow expected tonight and into tomorrow on the back edge of the storm.
What are you and the rest of the experts going to be looking for the next few hours? I mean, is it pretty much a done deal? We know exactly how this is working, or is there still, wobbles, moves that could affect, for instance, the amount of snow we get in the city or some other areas to put up numbers that we didn't expect?
Yeah, it's when you get a system like this, it all depends on, some of these systems can have localized areas of heavier snowfall bands, and if you get under one of those, you can pick up 3 to 5 centimeters an hour, and that can really pile up. So right now for this afternoon, I'm just looking for this dry slot kind of to fill in and move back out, and we start getting back into the snow this afternoon. And it's tonight, like as I mentioned, we're looking at another 10 to 15, but if you can get under some heavier band for a while, you could be looking at higher rates than that. Some areas could see up to 40 centimeters or so. So that's something to watch. But overall, the storm is kind of tracking as we predicted. And it's just a matter now of waiting to get on the backside and then this thing finally clear out on Friday so that we can start the cleanup.
Rob Paola runs the Twitter account Rob's Obs and is a weather expert and veteran helping us get through this storm. Rob, final question for you, and thanks again so much for your time. I know you're very busy right now. Is this it for us? Like once we're done through Friday, is this it? All right, we did have someone in the chat suggest that he had heard somebody say that we could be in for a significant amount of snow next week. Please tell us that this is over at the end of this all.
I would love to say that's it for the year, but it does look like there is another system coming next week, which could give us another round of snow. I don't think it's going to be as heavy and as significant as this one, but after the storm, we stay cold right through Easter weekend, so there's not going to be much melting there. And then yes, the potential for another system next week. After that, we're getting to late April, and our average temperatures are getting up to 10 to 15 Celsius. So we have to get back to a more normal pattern. And when we do, you're going to see a quick melt of the snow, and then temperatures getting back into the mid-teens. But we're unfortunately going to have to just delay it for another week or so before we can get into more spring-like temperatures.
It never ends. The winter of 2022. Oh my God. Rob, thanks so much for doing this. We'll keep on following all your tweets. Really appreciate everything you're doing for people trying to follow and of course, stay safe with their families during these crazy times.
Okay. Thanks, Andrew.
Appreciate it. There is Rob Paola. Give him a follow on Twitter at Rob's Obs. All right. We got to get Remis back in here. Before we do that, big shout out to our friends at Princess Auto. Of course, we talked to Ed Tait earlier. They've got the Princess Auto Grey Cup tours that have been going around. I know there's some city visits planned for the 23rd and 24th of April. That should not be affected right now. But a number of Blue Bomber events this weekend did have to be put off. That being said, the season's coming up. Princess Auto, big sponsor of the Bombers. And we're looking forward to doing Bomber reports with Princess Auto all season long. And of course, Princess Auto is also the spot. You're seeing the snow blowers in the video right now. I can't believe we're still dealing with this. But whether you need a snow blower or anything, you got the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Visit them at one of 2 Winnipeg locations or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. I guess it depends on where you are. If your BP is open, I wouldn't suggest that home delivery is, well, listen, if they're delivering, they're able to get it to you. It certainly would make the night a lot better. Bottom line is, a lot of people did stocking up and they won't be getting out. But as soon as this is done, we'll be back at it. Moose games on the weekend. They've moved to Saturday and Sunday, and we'll be able to get back to our favorite local Boston pizza. In the meantime, though, check out online for all their great game day deals. Call your local location to see what the situation with BP is. And maybe if the snow lets up, you'll be lucky enough to get some of those delicious Boston wings, pizzas, and more tonight or very, very soon. Again, order online at bostonpizza.com. Nick and Nikki DQ, we're going to give Nick a hard time because we always love talking blizzards on this program. Not this kind of blizzard, though. And of course, the Nick and Nikki DQ group with 4 locations: DQ Niverville, DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's. Have your favorite blizzard flavors and all 6 of the brand new stack burgers available for you. They are on all the local delivery apps for the 3 city locations. Again, we'll see how Skip's working tonight. I think many people might take a night off of trying to get these drivers around the city. But whenever you got the hankering, pop out, support a great supporter of ours, the Nick and Nikki DQ group, at any of their locations. And hey, just before we get Remo back in here, had a chat with a couple of my old friends from Aikens Lake last night. Man, it's going to be great to get out there. Aikens is ready for their busiest season ever, but there is still room. May long weekend, 1 spot early in June, and a couple openings later on if you do want to get in and enjoy the incredible 5-star fly-in fishing experience just a couple hours away from the city, which is Aikens Lake. An amazing family and friends trip to catch up with people that you've been FaceTiming with for a couple years, or been working remotely. What a great way to bring in associates from your own company, customers, and more on an incredible corporate getaway. Find out more at aikenslake.com, or on Twitter you can hit up our good friend Pitt Turan at Aikens Lake as well. All right, let's get Remis back in here. Pretty hot chat today. A lot of people that I think maybe had the day off that maybe don't normally get in to see us. Remis hanging out. And listen, always great stuff with Ed and Murat. But I was particularly geeked to have Rob's Obs on today because let's face it, everyone is talking about this nonstop. We're dealing with right now. And he's such a great resource. We had him on 1290 back, and I want to say 2019. I can't remember what the circumstances were, but there is a lot of interest in this. And if we can get a little bit of inside information, much like we do when we're trying to make our bets before we get to the Coolbet Lines, a guy like Rob's Obs, a perfect guy to have on the program.
Yeah, just judging by the active viewers, usually near the end of the show, a lot of people drop off. I don't think anyone left. They want to hear what's going on with this storm. I see some storm deniers, people maybe not believing the models and leaning into their own.
Truthers?
They're doing their own research. Saying it's not as bad as they're saying. So, I was out this morning. I haven't looked outside. Seems pretty rough. Thankfully I don't have to go to work. Got all the milk I need for like the next month, so we're good to go.
Geez, a month of milk, doesn't that stuff go bad? That's what I hear. Hey, if you are new to the channel, though, I did tweet out that we were doing Winnipeg Storm Talk. We might have some new folks in here. Folks, this is where we're at now. Winnipeg Sports Talk every day, 1 p.m. live on YouTube. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcast feed, Winnipeg Sports Talk. But if you're with us right now, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. You get notifications when we're live, and of course, able to watch shows after they happen as well. Usually we got the podcast out about 3:30 every day in time for the drive home. But if you are at the office or have the opportunity to throw the computer or the iPad on, join us live every day right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Reem, Murat's piece was really interesting. I'm very, very excited though about that piece that he sort of teased whenever it comes out. I just think back to that piece that he did about Johnny Kovacevic earlier and, the insight we got into his background, and from everything that he just described with this player on the current Winnipeg Jets, this is going to be something that I'm sure we'll have a great time talking about and most importantly, reading.
Yeah. What was that? Who is the player? So many questions. I don't enjoy those teases. Now I'm going to be here thinking about it, but I'm sure I'll forget about it immediately after the show. And when it pops up, I'll be like, that's what it was. And I'll be like, I need to read this. So I do subscribe to The Athletic. I know they have a lot of good deals. Worth it. I see a number of people in chat saying worth it just to read what he has to say. So I'm excited to see and wondering who it could be. Revealed things us that he's never told anyone. That was an even bigger tease.
I love it, and I just see Jeff Cabillas, big time tease from Murat. Man, oh man, LOL. Oh, you know what? It'll be worth the wait. I think we all know, and everyone appreciates Murat's time with us here, and he's an incredible storyteller. Not to mention a great analyst of the game, but this sounds like this is a little bit more on the personal side, and I know those are the pieces that he loves doing the most. I see Mitch saying not much in Morris. I would have thought Motown would have maybe been a little higher than some of the areas in and around the city. Guess it all depends on where that dry spot happens. I don't think there'll be much of a dry spot coming in. So yeah, Jay Miller, the snow is done. South End turned the snow off for max power. Reg Dunlop, weather porn is out of control. That's great term for it. Anyways, we'll see what's up. Bottom line is, for folks that are outside of the city, be incredibly careful. I mean, the road conditions and visibility seemingly in a bad spot in southern Manitoba, and I don't think it's going to get much better for what Rob described as a pretty long event, which is going to be stretching right into Friday. That being said, Reem, we do have quite a bit to get to, including some afternoon baseball. Just before we get to the Coolbet Lines, big cheers to our friends over at Canadian Club. The Canadian Club and Ginger ready-to-drink cocktail is now good to go at your local Manitoba Liquor Mart and available in the local beer stores as well. And a special shout-out to our guy James, because we were going to hook up with James yesterday, and I think there was a towing of a certain vehicle that impacted our ability to hook up. So I hope that James got all that taken care of. And when he got home after dealing with a bunch of things that he didn't have to deal with, hopefully he cracked one of those CC and Gingers and got into blizzard mode safe and sound. Again, specials right now all week long for the bonus air miles for this Easter weekend on the CC and Ginger 6-pack. Large bottles of CC are on sale this month. And in about 26 of the biggest liquor marts, there's a special CC display where you'll get a free can of CC and Ginger with the purchase of any Canadian Club. Tomorrow, a special Thursday marble race with our friends at Canadian Club. Probably, hopefully, just finishing up the blizzard, getting ready for a long weekend. So if you haven't been with us on Fridays, make sure you're with us tomorrow afternoon, because the marble race will be one day early with no show on Good Friday. All right, let's take a look at what's going on in the National Hockey League. And before we do that, Remis, we got a whole whackload of afternoon baseball right now. I'm looking at 6 games that are underway. I guess we could still live bet them if we want. We'll probably wait on that. Padres, Giants, Astros, D-backs, Reds, Guardians, Tigers, Red Sox, Mets, Phillies. But we do have another Blue Jays game coming up at 6 o'clock p.m. Jays plus 159 underdogs. Berrios back in the mound. I believe this is an opening day rematch. Berrios and Garrett Cole. And listen, Berrios is going to need to be a lot better, Remo, and the bats are going to need to be a lot better. They cooled down significantly yesterday in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, Jays have been hot to start the year. Springer to Oscar Hernandez, Bo Bichette, they got bats, but they went silent yesterday, not registering a run. I mean, look, there's 162 games. It's going to happen, but yeah, Berrios took the ball opening day against Texas, and we remember it did not go well for him. I don't think he made it out of the first inning. But Garrett Cole, the big money guy for the Yankees, he did not have a very good first start either. So, good thing you get another chance.
You see the ERAs? The ERAs at the start of the season is always funny when a guy has one start.
Oh, here we are. Yes, Berrios 108 ERA. I mean, when you pitch a third of an inning, give up, I forget how many was, 4 runs. Yeah, I mean, 108. Garrett Cole's 675. I imagine those will be down more in the 3 range.
Certainly will.
As it goes on.
Hey, your new guy, Robbie Ray with your Mariners. 1-0, 129 ERA on the hill against the White Sox. Dallas Keuchel getting the run for the Sox tonight. They're 3-1. Clear favorites in that division right now, but Mariners can get back to 500 with the win by Mr. Tight Pants.
Yeah, they lost yesterday, but Robbie Ray, I think there was a lot of people who thought he wouldn't be able to pitch as well without Pete Walker coaching him, harnessing that command. He looked pretty good in game 1. So Seattle, they have one of the longest playoff droughts in pro sports in North America, if not the longest. 2001, the last time they were in. So they are looking to change that this year. I'm not sure if they'll be able to, but Robbie Ray, yeah, he's a good pitcher. We did have
you know the Mariners. I mean, Mariners with Robbie Ray on the hill, even money plus 100. White Sox are minus 122. I mean, do you endorse a Mariners selection tonight?
I mean, I'm gonna have to, but I mean, if you bet on the Mariners, you're in for a lot of disappointment. So, but yeah, I mean, sure, why not? I think their bats are better. I like Mitch Haniger, and who they signed for Jesse Winker, Eugenio Suarez. I mean, I guess if you want, I haven't looked at it too closely, but sure, why not?
All right. Well, we've got 3 games in the National Hockey League tonight. The Habs taking on the Blue Jackets in Columbus. Maybe this will be a day. Patrick Laine had been real streaky. He had that crazy stretch. I think he's gone about 10 or 12 without a goal right now. See what happens tonight with that game, although no impact on the playoffs whatsoever. The Flyers have completely quit. What did they give up? A 9 spot last night to Washington? Can't wait to see what they've got for the Rangers tonight. Flyers plus 166 at home. Rangers minus 196, and the Kings and Avalanche go at it. Avalanche minus 263 favorites at home, plus 215. But Remis, hit those NHL season bets. Couple interesting big changes when it comes to some of the trophies. Austin Matthews, with this crazy run that he's been on, is now the clear-cut favorite for the Hart Trophy. If you remember last week, Matthews was plus 170, McDavid was plus 180. Well, with Austin Matthews getting all those, eight goals since he got 50, despite none last night against the Sabres, he is the heavy favorite right now to win it. But I'll tell you what, remember, was it not even 2 weeks ago when we were looking at the Norris Trophy numbers and saying, wait a second, Roman Josi at plus 300, how could we not jump on that? And did. I know we talked about it in the lock shop the next day. It was down to plus 250. Dusty got on it. I just checked the Norris Trophy numbers, and we've been waiting for it to happen. People have finally woken up. Roman Josi now the favorite to win the Norris Trophy, Remis, at minus 167. Cale Makar at minus 118. It is a 2-horse race right now, but Josi's pulled ahead in the minds of the odds makers, which is great news for everyone that jumped on when we talked about it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, we were just pointing out value there. We thought, hey, look at this number on Josi. Plus 300. It should be a lot closer. And here we are, a week later. But Josi's now favored over Makar for the Norris. So that's something to watch. So nice call by you there, Hustler.
Well, and I said I don't normally do this, but I jumped on that immediately and bet it during the program. So hey, if we can get a 3-1 number on Roman Josi that's now minus 167, I guess we could bet it the other way with Cale Makar and guarantee some profit. But I think we'll ride this. Did enough hedging on the weekend with the Masters and Cam Smith. Of course, all there at Coolbet for you. You can still get in on the RBC Heritage. If you want some more analysis on RBC Heritage picks, check out yesterday's edition of the Lock Shop that I do with Dustin Nielsen. Just search Lock Shop wherever you get your podcasts, or just go back into my feed or Dusty's Twitter feed. The video will be there from yesterday's, a little Masters celebration at the start with Scotty Scheffler. Some picks from yesterday, and I was so close to running the table. The damn Lightning, I thought they'd beat the Stars, ended up losing 1-0. That ruined a perfect night on the hockey side of things. Oh, and one other thing, Remo, that we didn't really get to yesterday on the Lock Shop or the program, but we had some NBA play-in action yesterday. We got a little bit more of it tonight, but the Nets beat the Cavs. They'll move on, and the Timberwolves are back in the playoffs. They beat the LA Clippers yesterday, so they'll move on. Clippers and Cavs get another crack at a game, we believe, against the winners of the subsequent games. Hornets and Hawks going at it tonight, and the Spurs and Pelicans in the other play-in games as part of the play-in tournament.
Yeah, I see a lot of people, first of all, the T-Wolves. One thing, the protester who glued herself to the floor before the game.
Wasn't it during the game?
Or during either one. I mean, way to ruin the floor. I mean, I don't know
See if you can get a picture of this up right now, because, folks, last night, in the T-Wolves, and I can't remember what this lady was protesting. Something to do, it was some sort of an animal-related cause, I believe. She apparently crazy glued on the bottom of her shoes and jumped onto the court and tried to glue herself to the court. Now, it was not executed very well. I think she was on the court for all of about 10 seconds or so. But it was a very, very bizarre scene. And at the beginning, they thought that someone had fallen down. And then they realized like security's running on and, 3 guys are dragging this lady off, that maybe there was a little bit more to it. But certainly a bizarre scene to get the NBA play-in tournament going yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one other comment about that. I see a lot of people roasting the T-Wolves for celebrating too hard after winning a play-in game. Like, look, I think the play-in games are kind of dumb, but
they're the T-Wolves guys.
And you see like baseball celebrates so hard after clinching the playoffs, after the play-in round, after winning each series. It's a long season. Let them celebrate. And yes, it's the T-Wolves.
I have a theory on this, Reem, and it's particularly in baseball. We'll get back to the T-Wolves in a second. But we all know about the large book of unwritten rules that is not available to everyone, but apparently exists in the sport of baseball. We know how, you're not supposed to pimp home runs. You're not supposed to get too happy. You're supposed to, act like you've been there and keep everything down. Well, that happens all season long. And then when things happen, like someone wins a wild card game, I think all of that's pent up energy, and they celebrate like they just won a 5th straight World Series for the smallest of victories in an enlarged postseason.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got to celebrate the wins. Good for the T-Wolves. I see Pat Beverly. Some people are roasting him, some people not, but I don't know. Like, sure, go celebrate. Have a good time. I think you like to see that. Wasn't maybe a bit over the top for a wild card. I mean, possibly, but again, I see some baseball people roasting it, and baseball goes out of control for a lot of them.
Oh, yeah. No, hey, listen, I'm here for it. And Cabillas very correctly says T-Wolves haven't been relevant since Kevin Garnett played there. Good for them. Really was again. Like, I don't know how long Cat's been there, Karl Anthony Towns, but they've had no success. And you know what? Overall, I mean, they had a good season. Like, it was sort of surprising that they're even playing in that game last night when you consider they had a 46-36 record. But hey, whatever. They got the Grizzlies now. Big matchup in the first round. It'll start off in Memphis. Your other series that we know so far, let me just get here to this when things get going on the weekend. We've got the Celtics and Nets, the Grizzlies and Timberwolves. Raptors begin on Saturday. Oh, and remember we said it was a 5:00 game, Reem? It's now back to 1:00. It'll be the noon game on Saturday. I see that it's been changed.
Yeah. Oh, actually?
Yeah, it's now 1 p.m. TNT, all times Eastern. So that'll be a noon start for you Raptor fans on noon on Saturday. That's what I'm looking at it right now.
I just saw Adam Seaborn tweeting about it going head-to-head with Hockey Night in Canada.
ESPN has it 1 p.m. on TNT, Saturday, April 23rd, and then 3:30 p.m. on TNT, the Mavs and Jazz.
Okay, I'm on the Score app, so that's weird if they changed it. I mean, not weird considering where the Raptors traditionally play, but I'm wearing my Raptors hat today, so I'll have to tune in on Saturday.
Well, it's weird because, on ESPN on the scores, they've got it as 1:00 and 3:30. And then if you just go to the NBA schedule there, they've got it as Utah, Dallas early, then Minnesota, Memphis, then Toronto, Philadelphia. So some fake news out there on one part of the ESPN, but it's weird. I mean, they are broadcasting a bunch of these games.
At NBA.com still has 5 o'clock. I think it's still 5. I think it's 5.
Excellent. Well, it could be fake news on the scores page of ESPN. Regardless, NBA playoffs get going soon. We'll be all over the Raptors. It probably won't do anything tomorrow on it, although maybe we will do a setup, but certainly next week as the season continues. And just to check before we finish up on Coolbet, and again, use the promo code WST if you've never played at Coolbet before. for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. Has been a little bit of a line movement. Raptors were plus 150. They're now plus 155. And I will be making a heart bet on that one, Remo, and back in the Raptors. Would love to see them upset the Sixers. Sixers have a lot of pressure on them, and the Raptors in a lot of ways I think are playing with house money, but that is just a great team top to bottom with arguably the best coach in the game. I'm confident that the Raptors are going to make this a real series.
I think they definitely could, but yes, a lot of pressure on Philadelphia, not getting past Milwaukee last year and getting James Harden. So I think it'll be good. Some big star power on the Philly side in this series, and we know the Jays, not the Raptors. They got some players too.
Oh, hey, listen, before we go, speaking of Major League Baseball unwritten rules, a big code violation last night in that Padres-Giants game.
Yeah, a couple items I want to get to here before we wrap up. Mauricio Dubon of the San Francisco Giants bunted for a hit with a 9-run lead over the Padres. The Padres were not happy. Eric Hosmer looking at him at first, very disappointed. The Padres manager, Bud Black, also not happy. What's your take on the unwritten rules?
I'm reading the book of unwritten rules right now, and oh man, that is a big no-no. That is a big no-no. Absolute disrespect to do what you could do to get on in a 9-0 game. You're supposed to quit. You're not supposed to be trying anymore at that point. And in fact, I don't even know why the guy showed up to the plate with a bat.
Yeah.
Just an egregious violation of the unwritten rules of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I mean, they should have just. Why even bother playing? They should have just ended the game. So.
Don't they have the mercy rule? Don't they have the mercy rule anymore in Major League Baseball?
Yeah.
No, they don't.
No, but the other one, I don't know if you saw this. Just happened now. Clayton Kershaw had a perfect game through 7 innings, only 80 pitches, and you think? Don't tell me
they took him out.
They took him out.
Get on! Come on!
They took him out.
Perfect game, 80 pitch, perfect game through 7, and they're going to the pen.
Yeah, they won. I mean, hey, they won the game. All that matters. Wins and alls. He left healthy.
I guess.
I think because it's the beginning of the year. Man, 13 strikeouts. It's the beginning of the year. Maybe they're not as stretched out. Blame the lockout, Huss. They had the shortened spring training. Couldn't stretch out properly. He's had arm issues in the past. I don't know. He's had a no-hitter before. I don't know what to say. That's, I think, disappointing for everyone who would want to see the 80 pitches. You think he'd be able to go 2 innings throwing the way that he was against Minnesota, but no, they took him out. People on Twitter very mad online. You let him go for that perfect game.
I guess it's Kershaw, and he knows that. He's so important to the club. Maybe I'll give him a pass, and the Dodgers a pass on that. But that would suck to be at the game, think you're going to be witnessing history, and then someone else comes out of the bullpen to start the 8th.
Like no hitters, I think we've seen it. It's been done. Seemingly anyone can pitch a no hitter. Sean Manaea had a no hitter with the Padres last week through 7 or so, and they took him out. It wasn't even a big deal, but perfect game. There's only been like 22 perfect games in Major League history. Come on, you got to give her here, but no. Clayton Kershaw opting to protect his arm, and they took him out.
A couple NFL notes. Derek Carr got a 3-year, $121 million extension with the Raiders. He's now the longest tenured AFC quarterback, which is a bit surprising, but that just goes to show you the turnover at that position and all the incredibly talented young QBs. Niner fans freaking out right now. Deebo Samuel wants to get paid. He wants the $25 million. It was on the table for Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. Apparently, the Niners have said, "Oh yeah, go ahead, find a trade partner, if you will." So we'll see how that works out. A loss of Deebo in the Shanahan offense, I think, would be devastating, and that's basically the big NFL news. But Remo, we just have to quickly get to an incident last night from the Oilers Wild game. A big home win for the Wild. Oilers have been rolling, strong performance. But not surprising, things got a little chippy later on in the game, and it was Evander Kane who was allegedly starting. It was defending his teammate Kyler Yamamoto. It happened to be Kirill Kaprizov, the number 1 player on the Minnesota Wild. Things got a little testy. Ryan Hartman came in, and then, yes, the greeting, the straight up flipping the bird on the ice. I can't remember the last time I've seen that in the National Hockey League. And it cost him some money. He got a just sub $5,000 fine. But whatever happened to good old telling a guy off with, with the actual usage of English as opposed to a sign language?
Finger. I mean, it's just a finger, Huss, but it's fourth. That's like $4,200 finger right there. And the ref slapping his hand away. No, people can't see this finger. Oh my God, my eyes are burning. Sorry to everyone in chat. I didn't put like blur out the finger, but this is the picture that was shown on. And he did call out Kane after the game, saying that his teammates stepped in and Kane's teammates did not. However, after reviewing the tape, that may not entirely be true. But yeah, 40. And then I don't know if you saw, I think there's a picture going around online that Evander Kane's wife gave Ryan Hartman $200 to help pay for the fine, or his ex-wife, Anna Kane. That's going around.
I don't even want to touch the Anna Kane stuff right now, but you can look it up for yourself. She had a couple of very interesting Instagram posts over the course of the last week.
Apparently, it's on her Instagram story. There it is, A. Kane, saying that she paid him $200. So I don't.
Is there anything juicier than Kane's ex-wife using? And I don't want to suggest where she gets her money from, but I mean, listen, when people are married, I think there's a good chance that some of that might have been Evander's. And the fact that she's using it to pay a fine for a guy that flipped off her ex in a NHL game is pretty damn good. She did put out a note saying to NHL teams she's available to sit in the front row. She has as a distraction come playoff time. So who knows? Maybe Anna Kane will be down at front row in the Staples, welcoming Evander back in the first round of the playoffs. Could things get any more ugly with that guy off the ice? I don't know. This wasn't really any of his doing, but when you put it out on social media and serve it up to all of us like a raw steak to a rabid dog, we'll jump all over it. We'll talk about it. We'll have a laugh about it. I'm just glad I'm not involved.
Yeah. Speaking of social media, two other things. Not to rub it in, but here's what the Jets are up to. Pierre-Luc Dubois putting this shot out on Instagram story today. Thanks, Duber18.
I'm out. Trade this guy. This guy.
How dare he troll all of us?
I actually thought that he had a future in Winnipeg, but after this sort of this Remis, this might be worse than the money phone. Dubois is done. We're trading everybody now.
Doesn't he know we're suffering here in the blizzard of the century? It's horrible. Yeah. What a middle. Just might as well have given the middle finger to everyone in the city that he plays for. Have some awareness, Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Come on, Pierre. It's going to be tough to get over. I don't know. I was all in on signing this guy to a long-term deal, but just with one simple Instagram story, I've done a 180. I'm out. The trade, a disaster.
Yeah.
Dubois, no future in Winnipeg after a virtual slap to the face of every Winnipeg Jet fan dealing with the blizzard.
BA Split writing in chat, 55 would never do that. He'd be in the gym. And yes, how dare the Jets take a day off and be at the beach? They should be working out, training for Friday's game against the Florida Panthers. What a
12-hour video sessions going over all the action this year, finding out what the heck went wrong and why they're in the situation they're in right now.
Yeah. Oh my God. What? My blood is boiling thinking of this. Hold on. Someone says they saw Kyle Connor was golfing. Oh, they should be reviewing film of all their mistakes from the season.
We need to trade Connor too?
No, he didn't post that. That's fake news.
Oh, dude. Well, listen, we're going to be checking. We're going to be checking these Instagram accounts right away.
Okay, one other thing from social media. Chris Pronger's been going viral for posting some Twitter threads last week and again this week about just the financial aspects of being a pro hockey player. And, when you see, a 5-year, $30 million contract, for example, how much, the players are actually taking home. I found this quite interesting. I think this is a life, that a lot of us don't get to experience, and I was curious how it worked. I do see a lot of other people taking it the opposite way, wanting to cancel Chris Pronger, saying that he's crying poor. I didn't take it that way as all. I just said he's trying to give insight on a life that, some of us don't know about. The same way, Connor McDavid posted a video of his house with a heated driveway on social media earlier this year. I mean, this is just information. Take what you want. I didn't take it that way at all. I don't. A lot of people mad online, I see.
Oh, I tweeted about this. It was an interesting thread. And unfortunately, this whole app is usually just one big pity party. And, I don't make that much money in 40 years or 50 years. Well, you know what? That's not their problem. And Chris Pronger's talking about financial responsibility for players that are in the top 1% of what they do in a very lucrative industry with very short careers. So if you take that as some sort of rubbing it in the face that these guys make a lot of money, I don't know what to tell you. I think people need to be listen, there's a lot of things in today's world that you probably justifiably should be offended about. This sort of thing, not even remotely close. And I think a lot of those people that are having a hard time with all this should spend more time playing their own ball, as they say, and not worrying about other things like what people are making for their 4 or 5 year career in the National Hockey.
Well, I think financial literacy for athletes is something important. I mean, talk about there was that 30 for 30 broke. I think Antoine Walker made like $100 million in contract and went bankrupt. So I think it's something important to talk about and understand. I enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining.
Yeah,
I didn't see it the other way.
No, for sure. Anyways, people need to take a chill pill. Chris Pronger not getting canceled. It was a great thread. It was interesting. And it was important for a lot of people that might be fortunate enough to be in that situation at some point in their life where they're getting paid that much and they think it's going to be around forever. And the bottom line is it won't. Great show today. Remo, what's going on tonight? Any big plans? Any big gatherings?
I was gonna do my taxes, start getting taxes together. I know my wife is doing that now. That's probably what I was gonna do. I don't know, watch some baseball.
Yeah, Jays game tonight for sure. No, Cabillas is fired up. We got another edition of AEW at 7 on TSN, and 3 hockey games tonight. Would have been great if last night's slate was maybe spread out a little bit more over these 2 games. There was so much going on last night. It was tough to pay attention to it all.
Yeah, 1 game Monday, like every game Tuesday, and then a couple games tonight. So we got that. And yeah, it's Jays Yankees as well.
Good stuff. Well, listen, we should get these pods up. I know a lot of people. Great to see. If you're a newcomer, thanks so much for joining us today. Make sure to subscribe. Join us daily at 1 o'clock. Tomorrow, folks, we will do a marble race at the end of the program. We'll have lots of Jets content. Rowicki's going to join us. Ken Weeb's going to join us as well. We'll talk a little Jays, maybe a bit of Raptors heading into the long weekend. And we'll certainly have the latest on the Winnipeg Jets. They will be off the beach or the golf course tomorrow, I believe, practicing. So we will hear. I guess there's no media there, though. Mike was supposed to be the one guy. Maybe we'll touch base with Jamie Thomas or Mitch Clinton, get the taste of what's happening there. Bottom line is, stay in tonight, stay off the roads, enjoy yourself. We'll be back tomorrow to keep you company as the blizzard of 2022 continues. Huge thanks to all of our sponsors that make this show each and every day happen. Aikens Lake, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Vita Health, Culligan Water, Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, Breezy Bend, Not Auto Corp, Little Brown Jug, Princess Auto, Boston Pizza, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Canadian Club Whiskey, and don't forget CC and Ginger now in your beer store and liquor store, and of course our betting partner over at Coolbet Canada. Thanks to Rob Paola, thanks to Murat, thanks to Ed Tait. Have a great one tonight, folks. Stay warm, stay inside. We'll see you tomorrow on WST.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.